All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Los Angeles Neighborhood Council Coalition's monthly meeting. It is August 1st, and we'd like to thank everybody for coming here. And David's here, and he's going to be taking the role. So make sure that in your name it shows what neighborhood council you're from and whether you're the primary or the alternate. We really appreciate that. So with that said, hey, Michael, why don't we just get right into the elections presentation then?
All right, will do. Hold on just a minute while I get my screen shared. All right. Morning, everyone. Nice to see everybody here. Thank you for having me. So I'm Michael Lectrich. I'm with the City Clerk's Office in the Neighborhood Council Elections and Funding Division. So our office administers neighborhood council elections. So I wanted to give a brief overview of what this season is going to look like. For the most part, I'll get through the presentation and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So let's just jump right in. And with that, first thing I want to talk about are some enhancements that we're going to have for the 2027 Neighborhood Council election season. The first one is we are expanding candidate filing to 60 calendar days. Previously, I think since 2021, it's been 45 days. So we've extended it an additional 15 days in hopes that maybe boards will have two general meetings in this time frame. It will give more opportunity for neighborhood councils to promote neighborhood council elections to get candidates excited. So that's a big part of why we've extended candidate filing. Next, the thing that we are probably most excited about, the hybrid election model. So for 2027, all neighborhood councils will have a hybrid election model. What that means is stakeholders will have the option to vote in person on election day, or they will be able to vote by mail. Again, that's for all neighborhood councils. That is not a cost for neighborhood councils. That is covered by the city clerk's office. Next, we are reducing election days to 6 election days. Previously, neighborhood council elections have been by region. So there's 12 regions, so we've had 12 different election days, meaning that the election span from March to June. That's a pretty long time frame. We've heard back from a lot of neighborhood councils that it caused some issues, especially for those having elections in March. That meant that their elections took place, but the new board was not seated until July, which caused a period of time where board members who weren't reelected might not be interested anymore. So then some boards were having issues making quorum, making decisions, things of that nature. So now with 6 election days, elections will take place over May and June. It's just 2 months. So more information on that a little bit later. One benefit as well with 6 election days. Previously, when we had 12 election days, the first few regions, candidate filing was almost all impacted with the November and December holidays. With 6 election days, the majority of everyone's candidate filing is taking place in 2027. So that some are impacted a little bit by the December holidays because they start towards the end, but the majority of the candidate filing is in the new year. And then lastly, our office is expanding resources to stakeholders. We want to try to make NC elections pretty accessible, everything from candidate filing to voting. We want to make sure that we are posting constantly on social media, have materials available to help stakeholders through the process. We also want to be out at events more often. We want to be accessible to stakeholders. So like if during the election season, your neighborhood council is having an event that you think would be a great opportunity to register candidates or voters, feel free to reach out to your election administrator and we can see how we can partner together. So those are the main enhancements. Now I want to go over some NC election documents to highlight to talk about the neighborhood council election season. The first one is our NC election handbook. The handbook goes over everything with the election, everything from candidate filing to voting to the tally and election materials after the election. So that's a really great resource. Next is the NC election timeline. This breaks down for all 6 groups that are, having an election, because we refer to them as the 6 groups. This will break down each group's timeline, everything from candidate filing, vote by mail period, when unofficial results will be released, to when the election will be certified. If you're not sure which group you fall under, that's when you can refer to the election schedule. So this lists out the 6 groups. It will list the election day and then list the NCs for each group. And then the election information worksheet. This is a really important document. This document is where neighborhood councils can list their polling location, polling hours, language requests. So a few things that I want to touch on briefly with the election information worksheet. These are recommended polling locations. Sometimes, an NC might want a polling location, but it could already be booked. There could be a scheduling issue, things like that. So they're recommended. Another thing to talk when we talk about polling locations, our office has budgeted $150 per neighborhood council for polling locations. So let's say that there's a school that you recommend to have a polling location. We're working with that school to do all of the reservations. We've come to find out that the reservation is $300. Our office will pay $150, and then we'll reach out to the neighborhood council to see if you're able to cover the remainder of the amount, so the other $150. But we'll be in complete communication. If there's any polling locations that you recommend that are not available, your election administrator will let you know and try to work out to see if you have any other recommendations, things like that. So the election information worksheet, we do have the deadline of August 31st because we released it on July 1. However, if your neighborhood council needs more time, that's okay. Just let your election administrator know. The reason that we have it due so early is in hopes that we can already start doing the reservation for polling locations. And so actually all 4 of these documents that I've mentioned were released on July 1. They were released in the Neighborhood Council Election and Funding newsletter. Your election administrator has also sent you a few emails with links to these documents, and they're all available on our website. I'll include later today, I'll include a link in the chat to that. And then lastly, I do want to talk about the ballot voting models. So our office, we take every neighborhood council's bylaws and we take that and put it into a ballot voting model, which is like a blueprint for the election. It lists out the eligibility for voters, which seats are up for election, a breakdown of each ballot or ballots that in that neighborhood council, so that you're fully aware of who's eligible to vote and which ballot they would receive. I do see a few hand raised. I will get to you, but I'm going to try to get through the presentation first, just so you know. So don't worry.
Yes, Michael, we'll call them after you're completely done with your presentation. So go right ahead.
Cool. So I want to talk about the candidate filing process a little bit, because I'm sure many of you will be candidates this election season. Again, we're expanding candidate filing to 60 days. Application types. So there's 2 ways that candidates can apply. The first is going to be through our NC portal, which will be online. The second is paper applications. So these will be translated. Referring back to the election information worksheet, one of the reasons that that's so important is there is an opportunity to list out which languages you would like to have materials available for your neighborhood council. So if you fill that out, we will work on getting all of the applications translated into those languages. Next is required documentation. So for all neighborhood councils, all candidates must provide required documentation to prove stakeholder status. That's for all candidates. Even if you're a sitting board member, you have to file to apply and you have to provide documentation proving stakeholder status. When we talk about required documentation, there's 3 things that we're looking for. That's going to be a photo ID, which is proof of identity, proof of age, because all candidates have an age requirement, and proof of stakeholder status, whether that's live, work, own real property, or have community interest. We would need documentation proving that. So once we receive the application, review the documentation, our office will certify the candidate. So once someone is certified, that means that they will be on the ballot. Let's say that you have a concern about a certified candidate because you think most common is maybe your neighborhood council has term limits and you think one of the certified candidates has exceeded their term limit. There is a period of time where you could challenge a candidate. So you could file that to say, I think that this candidate has served for 8 years already and exceeded term limits. Our office will review that challenge to affirm or dismiss. All of the applications have to be reviewed. All candidates have to be certified, review candidate challenges, and then we will release the certified list of candidates. The certified list of candidates will have all of the candidates that are going to be on the ballot. It will have them in the random alpha order, so that will mirror what's going to be on the ballot. At this time as well, we'll reach out to the neighborhood council president and the election chair to provide the certified list of candidates with contact information so that if your neighborhood council is having a candidate forum, maybe event that you want to make sure that you invite all of the candidates to, you can do that. So with that, I want to go over voting registration options because technically there's 3 ways people can register. As in the past with neighborhood councils, it is important all voters must register. The reason for that, bylaws change, stakeholder status changes, things like that. So all voters will have to register for this election, and there's 3 different ways that they can do that. The first 2 are going to be with vote by mail, which is an online registration starting 60 days prior to the election, because we're sure that, your neighborhood council has triggered an election. We will open up online registration for voters. So they'll be able to log in, fill out the registration form. It will automatically set up if you're self-affirmation. They'll just have to complete the registration form. If it's documentation, it will have them upload documentation. The nice thing about when they do online registration, they can log into the portal at any time and check the status of their application. So they can see when we've reviewed it, if there's more information we need, or when their ballot's been mailed or received, things of that nature. So it's nice that you can just always track it. The other option is there is paper registration. To be honest, I have a 71-day filing period here, but once we release the paper registration form, you're free to use it. So it's actually a much longer period of time. The nice thing about paper registration form is voters can designate an authorized agent to collect the application. So an example I give all the time is maybe I know that like my apartment complex, everyone who lives here is eligible to vote in my neighborhood council. So I could hand out an application to all of my neighbors. And in the authorized agent portion, I can list out my name, sign it, the voter approves, so that I can collect all of my neighbors' applications to send it to our office. That does not mean that that I would be receiving their ballots. It just means I'm sending in their applications. The voters would be receiving their ballot individually. Same to if your neighborhood council is having an event. You could hand out paper applications, fill out the authorized agent portion so you can collect all of them and send them to our office. So that's a great option for paper registration. The last one is at polls. So this means that there's in-person registration on election day, because election day is basically the whole voting process in one location. So they will be registered, given a ballot so that they can vote, and then put it in the ballot box so it can be included in the tally. The reason that we always really want to promote election day and in-person voting is because some neighborhood councils, the voting process can be a little tricky. There may be questions. We see it all the time that, someone's told by like a coworker, hey, go to the polling place to vote for me. The voter goes, gives some information, but they don't see the person that told them to vote. And it might be because there's special requirement that was needed or additional documentation, things like that. So with that polls, poll workers will be trained to know the bylaws to help voters through the registration process. Speaking of at polls, I do want to highlight a few things. We have already opened our poll worker application for neighborhood councils. If you are a candidate, it doesn't mean that you can't be a poll worker. It means you can't be a poll worker at the neighborhood council where you are a candidate, but you could be a poll worker at another neighborhood council in that group. So do not hesitate. We definitely, need poll workers. We want to encourage people knowledgeable about neighborhood councils to participate in the election process. We also will be really pushing the poll worker application in the near future. So next, I want to talk about returning vote by mail ballots, because there are 3 options. One is USPS. So all vote by mail ballots will come with a postage paid envelope. So that's at no cost to voters. At the polling place, you can always turn in your vote by mail ballots. And it also does not have to be the same neighborhood council for that ballot. Like, let's say that, I have my vote by mail ballot for Greater Toluca Lake, but maybe I'm in the Van Nuys area. And so I can stop at the Van Nuys polling location to drop off my ballot in the ballot box there. And then lastly, we will have a ballot box in our office, Empower LA, and we are looking at possibly doing a few others. I just want to highlight that we are not using the county drop boxes. We are not going to have previously, when we had just vote by mail, we had a lot of ballot drop boxes throughout the city. Those were really underutilized. So we're not going to have as many ballot drop boxes. So we're definitely not using the county's drop boxes, and we're not going to have drop boxes at multiple libraries and things of that nature. And then lastly, I want to talk about post-election activities. So first thing is our office will be taking care of the ballot tally. The ballot tally will start the first business day after the election. Most elections are taking place on the weekends, Saturday or Sunday. So that means that following Monday is when we will start the tally. You're welcome to come in person to observe the tally. We'll also be live streaming the tally. And election day challenges. So there is a filing period for election day challenges. Let's say that you were a stakeholder and you witnessed a candidate electioneering. You can file a election day challenge. Election day challenges will be reviewed by an independent grievance panel, where they will affirm or dismiss the challenges. And then lastly, election results. So we release election results twice. The first one is unofficial results. Just want to stress that is unofficial. Uh, they're especially in a hybrid election model. Uh, the unofficial results can change because when we have a vote by mail component, vote by mail ballots, as long as they are postmarked by election day and received within our by our office within 10 days, 10 calendar days after election day, they will be included in the tally. So unofficial results come out before that 10-day period. So with the vote by mail component, unofficial results do have an opportunity to change drastically sometimes. So just keep in mind those are unofficial results. And then after the election day challenges have been reviewed, after all of the ballots have been tallied, we'll certify the election and release the official results, which will be the complete list of who will be elected. And then lastly, I just want to talk about our election administrators. So we have 4 election administrators. They've already been, reaching out to your neighborhood councils. We're going to be in communication throughout the whole season. So at the top here, you have the 4 different election administrators. Always feel free to reach out to them. You can always reach out to me as well. As I mentioned later in the chat, I'll put my contact information. So this is a good resource if you don't know who your election administrator is. And then I just have a QR code that takes you to our website, but I'll also put a link to our website in the chat. And with that, I will open it up to questions.
Okay, well, let's start with I know Burton had 2 in the chat. One is, how should they fill out the BAC for the election information worksheet?
I mean, it can be just very basic, just saying election information worksheet. In all
I
honesty,
think I
yeah.
can help you with that, Michael. The Arleta Neighborhood Council approves the election information worksheet for the whatever date the election is. That should be more than sufficient, right, Michael?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. And then his second one, he wants to know about vote by mail ballots. How will the elections division guarantee that as registered voters don't vote both in person and also vote by mail?
Oh, great question. So when we have a hybrid election model at polls, we will have a voter roll, which will list everyone who everyone who was mailed a vote by mail ballot. And so those voters will have to vote provisionally. So we will take that. They'll vote provisionally, which means their ballot is put in an envelope with their information. When we go back to the office, we will make sure that vote by mail ballot was not received. If it was not received, we'll include that provisional ballot and void out the vote by mail ballot. If the vote by mail ballot was received, that's what would be included, and the provisional ballot would not be included. So, hope that made sense.
Okay.
Terrence, I want to follow up on part of Burton's question about the worksheet. And
Yes.
this is partly based on a conversation that was held at Wednesday's virtual session that Michael led. And that is, the neighborhood council is giving their first and second preference in terms of where they wish to have the polling place. Michael said that they would accept a third and fourth choice as well, even though there only is room for 2 on the form, but you can add an addendum. So just because the neighborhood council does first choice, second choice, or third, fourth, does not mean that is the polling place, because the city clerk has to verify the availability in terms of scheduling, that it's available for setup earlier than the poll hours and cleanup afterwards, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an indication of the preferences of the neighborhood council. And based on my experience, city clerk does its best to try to accommodate the first choice, but that doesn't always work out. So that's why they have to move to the second choice for various reasons. I'm aware of one situation where a venue, the venue on a weekend does weddings, and so competing against wedding charges, they wanted like $4,000 for the polling place. So I mean that it was available, but only for that price. So there's factors that the city clerk works on. So I hope that helps Burton and others, is put in what you want, and providing, I would say, providing any additional information that would be helpful to the city clerk, help you get what you want.
Yeah, and just
Okay.
I do want to focus too and say that if there's any issues, your election administrator will be reaching out to explain those to you. We won't just book a location without any notification being sent out. So.
Okay, great. So let's go to 2 live questions, then we'll go back to 2 chat questions and go back and forth. Norma Chavez, good morning. What's your question?
Good morning. So usually when we have documents that need to be approved at our neighborhood council meetings, we attach the document to the agenda. So do we have to attach this one because it's gonna be long because it's a Google form? And if we do, can we skip the information from the elections person because it's gonna be made public, and we no longer have an address, like a physical address, and we no longer have a phone number, so it'll have to be my personal information. And so I have 3 questions. So second one, we don't have term limits. Can people be challenged from a seat based on their performance or how active they are in a neighborhood council? And last one, can someone who is in one seat run for a different seat? For example, somebody who's in an at-large seat run for a residential? And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. For the election information worksheet, I do think it has to be included in the agenda. I would refer to your EA or NEA for that. Sorry, I'm not fully up to date on what the requirements would be for voting. I don't want to tell you bad information, so I would reach out to your NEA on that perspective. For term limits, so challenges are really for 2 things. If someone is not eligible to be a candidate, that's when you would challenge them. So for example, that's why I say term limits is pretty simple. So if someone is exceeded term limits, they would not be eligible to be a candidate because they would not be able to complete their term. Or if someone does not meet the eligibility requirements in attachment B. If, let's say that there's a problematic board member, just because they're problematic or they're not showing up to their meetings, that doesn't make their candidacy ineligible. So really, when we talk about candidate challenges, it's really if there's anything that makes them ineligible to be a candidate. So that's typically attachment B or Article 5 of your bylaws. And for running for a different seat, typically that is fine. So if they're an at-large candidate and then they want to change to be a resident candidate, as long as they qualify, they can run for whichever seat they qualify for. So hope that answers all of your questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Kevin Davis, good morning, sir. How's Foothill Trails?
Nice and hot.
Good to hear.
I have a question. In the past, I've inquired about getting access to the rosters for the municipal elections. My logic being that if somebody registers for a municipal election, they're more likely to vote in our elections. I was told the city clerk had access to that information. Is that possible to get for our area so we can target these people?
So we don't have access to that. That's actually managed by the county. So yeah, that's maintained when municipal elections moved over to the county. They now have the voter rolls. They wouldn't be broken down by neighborhood council as well. So there would have to be some
If we had,
researching.
if we agreed to pay for that information, would the city clerk give us a hard time about buying that kind of information from the county?
No, I mean if you go through the county to purchase that information, there's nothing. I don't see that's a violation of any NC election rules. So
That information is publicly available for a fee from the county.
yeah, it's usually with a fee, and the county has to approve to release it, which again is why that's not something that's on our.
Oh, I understand. I'm not concerned about an ethical violation. I'm more concerned about the county clerk saying, no, we're not going to pay for that.
You mean
No,
the county clerk or the city clerk, Kevin?
Well, the city clerk approves any funding requests we make. I was making sure that I wasn't going to get any blowback if I went ahead and tried to buy the information from the county, from the city clerk.
I would.
Well, guess what? Oh,
Oh, I was gonna say you can. Melvin might know, but you can also reach out to your funding rep to see if they can look in to see if there's any issues with that.
right, Michael. I was just going to tell Kevin that, hey, Melvin's here. He could answer that question right after this presentation. All right, let's get into
Excellent.
All right, so let's get into two questions off of chat, and then we'll go right back to the other questions live. So let's see, it was about the purpose. What is the purpose of releasing unofficial results if they might change significantly? And that's from Bill Curtis.
The reason is so that you have an idea of what the election results are. There's always a request to release unofficial results. To be honest, a lot of the time people are looking at that to then see if they want to reference that with their election day challenges and stuff like that as well. So it's just to basically give an idea of how the tally is going.
Okay, drop boxes, voter drop boxes. The county denied that, correct, Michael? That's what I was last told.
We used them in 2021, but to be honest, it was a bit of a nightmare. It's not as easy as possible. We did not ask them this election because drop boxes are so underutilized for neighborhood council elections. It also becomes a bit messy when the county has a special election. They need to use those drop boxes. So there's all kinds of complications that, to be honest, it was not cost effective for this budget that we use. We even tried to use the county drop boxes. They're very complicated.
But I thought also the county said they weren't going to do it this time too. I remember reading somewhere. All right, but going on to the next question. Oh, and Kevin, Melvin had answered your question in the chat, if you go look at that. And then for Christine Schubert, is the hybrid model optional?
No, the hybrid model is for all neighborhood councils. That's just the way we're going to be administering all neighborhood council elections.
Michael, clarify it's neighborhood council elections, not selections.
Yeah, elections. Sorry. Neighborhood council
Yes.
elections.
Okay, great. Now let's go to two questions live. Lionel, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, city family. It's good to see my family around here. My question for Mr. Michael, my former supervisor, which, by the way, you're great. I really enjoy working with you. Regarding NC elections, I live in City 6, Sun Valley area near council district boundaries. In the past, when I tried to vote, it was canceled because there's not enough candidates to trigger an election. I would like to see more people sign up to be candidates, because I like to see more diversity of ideas, more people. I like to see rotation. And I know that NC, your division is understaffed, underfunded. There's so much you could do. But is there anything that I could do as an individual, as a volunteer, to help do more outreach, more canvassing to get more people involved. Because I like to see more people, more new faces. That's my question. Is there anything I could do as a volunteer? Thank you.
I would really, I think so for the most part, outreach is going to be handled by Empower LA. But we do want to try to have resources available. I think the key to getting people interested in elections is really having people understand neighborhood councils and everything that they can do. So because if someone understands the power of neighborhood councils and what the neighborhood council is doing in their area, it may motivate them to be a candidate or, a voter in the election, because we definitely that's a big part of why we extended candidate filing, in hopes that we really can provide more opportunity for stakeholders to get interested and want to participate in the election. So, and boards. So.
All right. Thank you for that, Michael. And Brandy, you're the last question because I see no more hands.
Good morning.
Morning, Brandy.
Good morning. I'm having a slight technical problem, so I'm sorry that I'm not on camera. Good morning, Michael. Poll workers, is there a deadline, a deadline by which applications for poll workers need to be in?
So we have a moving calendar, so it's 30 days prior to election day. But the sooner we get the applications, the better. But 30 days prior to election day is the deadline for each group.
So I would recommend then on the last correspondence that just went out, that be placed on there. There's a thing, requesting polling applicants, and it doesn't indicate that. And it would be helpful if there was also a link to the calendar so that people, can do the back count.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's all good. We are going to be premiering a poll worker page soon, so that in hopes if someone just Googles neighborhood council election poll worker, that would come up. So that's good recommendations that I want to include on that
Yeah,
page.
only because we just got the email to notify our constituents or stakeholders, and so that's why I want to be able to get this information out, as I'm sure all of us do, as soon as possible, but that's the gap. So, and just a reminder to the group, Michael did talk about postmark. Remember that the federal government has changed the postmarking not to the date received, but the date processed. It could be the same date, it may not be the day, so I would not recommend that people wait till the exact date to get their ballots in. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brandy. Okay, and then Lionel's question, it was answered by they're going to have a page for poll workers.
Yeah.
So, and then Sid, we'll just take your last question, and then we got to move on.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple questions. One, maybe you said it. Is there room for write-in on the ballot, or is that a possibility? And secondly, how secure is your website? I have some concern about identifying yourself as a legitimate candidate. Driver's license would look like the most convenient thing to use. It covers the 3 areas, but of course it has your driver's license number on it, and that information is very private. So I'm just wondering how confidential that information would be. Thank you.
All right, great. So for neighborhood council elections, there is no write-in possibility. It's only certified candidates are on the ballot. For security, our system is very secure. One thing I want to say as well, whatever documents you provide cannot be public information. So even redacted versions, we will not be releasing redacted versions of driver's license. What happens with the candidate filing process is once a candidate is certified, so we've reviewed the documentation, everything, the documentation gets deleted. We don't even have access to the document anymore because we don't want to be maintaining that information. We understand it can be pretty sensitive. We get all kinds of sensitive documents, so we delete those.
Thank you.
Application. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Glenn, you got a quick question? Because we got to move on to Melvin. I'll grab you real quick.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on the vote counting. So last time it was all vote by mail, and obviously delay in getting the mail back and processed, et cetera. This time, because of the in-person polling, voting, I hope it would be done the same way or as close as possible as with regular elections, which is you announce the in-person polling. So that would assume would be the next business day. You tally the votes and make those available. And then whenever the vote by mail comes in, I don't know. The regular elections, they do updates every day or twice a day. I realize, this is neighbor council, maybe, that's too much to expect. But I think waiting 10 days to get the initial results was too long last time. So that is what I would be pushing for, is you do the tally the next business day and you release the tally for the in-person voting. And if you had some vote by mail already queued up, ready to be counted, count that. Just handle it with the respect we deserve, like a regular election. Minus, I know you don't have the same number of staffers, et cetera. But can that be done? Or something close to it?
So we will release unofficial results much sooner than we did it with the last election, which was all vote by mail, because I think it's 5 business days after election day, for the most part. Right now, we want to keep that because while we might be able to do the tally in 1 or 2 days, there's a lot of things that we look at before we want to release those results. Like, let's say that a race is off, like there's a margin of 1 vote difference. That means that we are going to do a manual tally. Let's say that there's any issues with the ballots, we have to do a manual tally. So we want to make sure that when we release the unofficial results, we've reviewed everything. If we can release it sooner than that 5 days, we definitely will. But we want to make sure that we are reviewing all of the results, reviewing the ballots, and that does take a little bit of time. But I can definitely look. I'm hoping to be honest, in 2029 to have something would have results sooner, but it's something that we're still looking into.
I think, the definition of unofficial, is exactly that. If there is an issue or if there is a recount needed, I mean, that's common in, elections for president of the United States. So yeah. I don't know. I'm all right. I guess we'll continue this conversation, but I think you should try to get as close as possible to the way the city clerk and the county registrar does regular elections. But you're only releasing twice. So they're releasing twice a day for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that. Kathleen, is it a quick question? Good morning, Kathleen.
Hi, good morning. I hope so, but it's important, and that's why I wanted to get it in. When we had an election, there was a grievance placed because a community interest group were not using a brick and mortar private address, and there were like 17 people that wanted to vote for a community interest stakeholder, and it wasn't done properly. And unfortunately, the people who were working, I was the only one who caught it, who checked the address, and yet the grievance people disagreed with me. But it was an apartment in a large apartment complex, and they all wanted to have ballots to vote for the community interest stakeholder. So that I do think that needs to be looked at a little bit more closely when people are applying as candidates, because it hasn't been done in the past. Thank you.
So just as a highlight for community interest, I do want to highlight this because I've gotten a few questions recently about community interest. So community interest stakeholders must participate in a community organization. For an organization to be considered a community organization under the definition of community interest stakeholder, they must have a physical street address for at least a year within the boundaries of the neighborhood council, and they must be a nonprofit organization. So yeah, hopefully that kind of expands that. And then Kathleen, just as a side note, I'll respond to your email shortly to hopefully schedule a meeting.
Yeah, I guess my point is they really do need to thoroughly check the addresses as being with the group, and that the organization itself is a brick and mortar established.
Yeah, and that is something that takes place now. So.
All right, then. Thank you so much. So let's move on. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate you coming and giving us a great presentation. And I'm sure it answered a lot of questions for the neighborhood council members that are here, and they'll be able to take that back to their board. So we appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Terrence, there is something in chat that's important, and that is a reference by Laura about the affirmation form. And I know that's been in use the last, I believe, 2 election cycles. Mike, I just want to confirm that.
Yeah, so the affirmation form, I believe that's been since 2021, actually. It's a bonk voted that all candidates in elections must sign the affirmation. So it's updated every election season, but it has been in use since 2021 and is about 7 pages long. It kind of goes through what board members are responsible for and things like that. So it's a very good document. So yeah,
Right.
That's maintained by Empower LA.
Yeah, I'm
Laura?
sorry. This is Laura just jumping in. So that being the case, it would be really great after an election for those candidates who win for the clerk to provide each NC the signed copies of those statements. So because we have had many issues with brand new board members who then just don't attend meetings very often, for example. So if we had that information to say, look, you signed this, you agreed, and it warned you that you could be removed, we would have fewer problems, because we've had, tears crying when we make a move to remove, and then Dunn says, oh, you're not treating them equally. So it'd be great if we could have those forms at the end. And I think I'm about to commit that the people we've appointed this year, we're about to renew their appointments. I'm going to make them all sign that as well. I'm using the I word. That assumes I'm reelected president next week. But anyway.
All right.
We can, just so you know, most people, if they're doing it virtually, they sign it virtually, but we can provide the date. No candidate can be certified without signing that.
Great.
Date. So
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Again, thank you, Michael. And we're now going to move on to Melvin. Melvin, good morning, sir. Could you put your hand up so you could go all the way to the top left corner? That we'd appreciate. No, virtually. But that was good. That was good.
All right. We're okay to proceed, Terrence?
Well, you're all the way down. You're down at the bottom. I'd like you at the upper top. Makes it easier.
Oh, like
so
my,
if you
my
just
image.
go it. Yes. So just raise your hand and it'll pop all the way up to the top. No, virtually.
Oh. I'm not so used to Zoom here, so let me get down there.
Under React.
Under reaction. There you go. Now you're up at the top. Very
right,
good.
Now I'm at the top. All right.
The floor is yours. Go ahead with the presentation. Then we won't interrupt him during his presentation. Then we'll take questions after. All right. And also you can put them in the chat.
Do I need to keep my hand up virtually, or can I lower it now?
Yes, sir. No,
okay.
Keep it up. There you go.
All right.
You're up there.
Cool. All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Melvin Cañas. I'm the program manager here at the city clerk's office with the NC funding program, as many of you know. So yeah, I was just realizing that this is now the 10th year since NC funding moved over from Dunn over to city clerk's office. So it's been 10 years in the making now here in city
Where are the
clerk.
girls?
All right. So yeah, so I want to, as you know, and you're living it, we have had quite a number of updates to our program policies recently, which I'll be happy to go over and answer any questions you may have. I would like to give you some general updates of where we are at the moment with our program, our fiscally speaking. Here we are in August now, at the beginning of the new fiscal year. A couple of weeks ago, we sent in our year-end report to the controller's office. So we are now waiting for them to respond back to us with further questions, as they usually have every year. And then we respond to those questions. And then when they give us the final approval, which we're counting on and hoping that that'll be the case, of course, then at that point we will issue to each of your neighborhood councils the final rollover memo. So just to go over some of the highlights of last fiscal year. Last year, neighborhood councils spent about 62% of the total funds made available to NC's last fiscal year, 62% expenditure level or rate. So that means that the rollover, because this last year again, we were able to roll over all unspent, uncommitted funds to this new fiscal year. So that was a rollover rate of 38%. Okay, and just to give you some comparison, the previous fiscal year 24-25, the rollover rate was 28%. So this most recent last fiscal year, it was a 10% higher rollover. In terms of expenditures across neighborhood councils across the city, the expenditure rates, they range from 2% expenditure for the whole year up to 99% expenditure. So that means that the rollover that we're going to be seeing once everything is approved with the controller's office, it'll be a rollover ranging from about $300 up to $82,000. So one NC out there is going to have plenty of funds to utilize in the community this new fiscal year. Let's see what else. Yeah, and moving on to the policy updates, the guidelines updates. Yeah, and just to let you know, I will be going over information that has been shared with your neighborhood councils for the last few months. And the one that I'll be referring to is actually an email sent to all neighborhood councils back on April 16th. So just to give you reference, you can go back, and it's the subject line was neighborhood council funding updates. That email, it was a separate email, separate from the monthly newsletters that our division here at City Clerk sends out every month, and our new newsletter just went out, I believe, today. So this was a separate email sent on April 16th, neighborhood council funding updates, outlining the different ways that the program policies, guidelines, procedures were revised and updated after the work done with the NC funding work group that began last calendar year. So just to start off with the major issue that we're still discussing and addressing is that one of the major updates, which technically, if I may say, is not something necessarily new, but it was basically codified and described further, was that all funding related matters that NCs deal with must be approved as individual agenda items. This speaks to the matter of a consent calendar that we've been discussing at length with neighborhood councils, with Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, with DUN, with commissioners, with some representatives from city council offices that have heard of this update and been wondering, where this is coming from and what can be done to improve this process for NCs, considering that this may cause some NCs to have very lengthy meetings if they cannot vote on consent. So that's one of the major ones. The other major one I would say has to do with the MPGs. That was another major part that was updated with the neighborhood purposes grants, where there were a few major updates. Number one, there is a new application form that has to be used, and from April through June, the last 3 months of last fiscal year, we were allowing both the old application and the new application to be submitted as to allow for some transition. But now starting July, this new fiscal year, we are only accepting the new application that has been available since April. Along with the new application, we are also asking your MPG applicants, particularly nonprofits, the 501c3 nonprofits, to provide California state status verification forms or proof of status from the Secretary of State and or Department of Justice to ensure that they are current with their registry in the state of California. The third major aspect to MPGs has to do with the project completion report. The project completion report is not something new. The project completion report has been there since MPGs began back in 2008, 2009 or so. And at one point, at the beginning, they were required. Then for the last several years, more than probably about a decade or so, they were not required, but highly recommended for NCs to request. So now they are back as being required for your MPG applicants to submit the report within a certain time after the approval, after they complete their project. And so there are guidelines provided as to what can happen when the MPG recipients do not submit their project completion report, and that is outlined in the policy. So I'll be happy to answer questions later on. The another update has to do with the monthly expenditure report. Normally, that report, the MER, has been due on the 10th day of the second month. We provided an extra 5 days. So now the new deadline for the MER is the 15th of the second month following the reporting month. And so that is a new policy regarding MERs. Something new that came about, which is not really so much under our control, but it's a new city regulation. It has to do with city contracted vendors, which includes NC vendors that we need to enter into contracts with, and that is that vendors must now register with the city's RAMP portal, which is the Regional Alliance Marketplace for Procurement. It's an effort by the city to have a one-stop shop for city contracted vendors to register and provide necessary documents as city contractors. Those are some of the major updates to the policies. There are some additional tools, resources that were created as part of the new program to allow for NCs to try to operate more independently without having to reach out to us as much, so that you have the information available at your hands through our website. Our website was also updated, and so if some of you have already visited, you may have already noticed the differences, and that had to do with the same issues that your NC websites have to work on, which is improve our websites to allow for ADA accessibility. One of the tools is there is a prepayment expenditures list that we provided, so that your financial officers can know what items can be prepaid without having to wait until an event occurs or such things. So that is a resource provided. It's on a website. There is an updated glossary of terms. Let's see, a promotional items questionnaire that has been very helpful. We've been hearing and meeting with financial officers about, so that there's no more guessing as to what are promotional items that NCs can purchase, what are those, how much can be spent, and so that we're not guessing what's allowable, what's not allowable. So that questionnaire again is also available on our website. There is a new, a pretty hefty, if you've already seen it, this new financial officer handbook. This handbook is aimed primarily at your financial officers to help with some more of the details of our policies and guidelines, but also primarily with learning to navigate the funding system portal. This will be helpful to new financial officers that may be coming in. But obviously, our staff is always available to help you in navigating the portal, learning the portal, so your financial officers can do their job as financial officers. And as far as one of the major components of NCs are events, community events, there is an updated event planning checklist. And so that is also available through our website. So there's a lot of new resources that are available for your NCs to utilize readily through our website. And last but not least is the somewhat a lot of you have been taking the new funding training, which is no longer, we're no longer doing the trainings as we used to through Zoom, live Zoom trainings. The full training is now available through the city clerk's YouTube page, our YouTube website. It's a training that is broken up into 6 different videos. The videos range from about 10 to 13 minutes each one. And then at the end of completing the videos, there is a quiz, a 30-question quiz, and there is a 70% passing score requirement, which is basically getting 21 or more questions correct to pass the quiz. And we do have a deadline at the moment of August 31st. Which 30 days from now for all board members to complete this new training. This new training has been raising some questions about whether this is a training required for financial officers. Is there a different training for non-financial officer board members? So this has been also a big change in our program, in the sense that there is one training now for all board members, whether you are a financial officer or non-financial officer board member. And that I think was coming up because over the years, when we did have 2 separate types of trainings, there was a separation in terms of the level of knowledge between financial officers and non-financial officer board members. So and so we created this new training that is required of all board members. And so that the hope is to give everyone the same level of understanding and knowledge of what the program policies are about. And so that when you're at your meetings, you can all be on the same page. So let's see. I know I've thrown a lot at you. Hopefully you were taking notes. But if not, like I said, all the information I just provided is, is available on that email from April 16th. But we'll be happy to resend it, which outlines all these updates to our program policies that I just went over. So Terrence, I'll leave it here at this point and be happy to answer any questions or comment on anything.
Fantastic. We'll start with Brandy, then Jay, then go to Laura, and then Doug. So why don't we start, Brandy?
Good morning. Good to see you twice in a week, Melvin. Question for you. A couple questions. The funding training, which we discussed at that meeting last week, we indicated that there is no way to penalize a board member unless it's in bylaws for not taking that training. However, is the city clerk going to verify that the votes it's receiving on its BACs are by people trained? And I ask this because we discovered that about 40 neighborhood councils were having virtual meetings who did not have the appropriate vote count to move forward. That's one question. The second question is, I think I need clarification on RAMP if you're saying that the NCs actually now need to be actively looking at competitive bidding. And then just a side note with the NPG aspect, if you have a letter from the DOJ, that indicates that not only has the nonprofit filed with the FTB or the Franchise Tax Board of California, but it is also legally registered as a nonprofit to function. The Secretary of State letter is only half of the issue. If you're only asking for the Secretary of State letter, you are not determining whether or not it's a legally operating nonprofit. You're only determining that it has achieved the tax status. So in any future updates of the handbook or policy guidelines, you may want to indicate if they're only going to submit that you either need to send both or just the DOJ one. So we've received already several that have only submitted the Secretary of State that have not registered with the state of California. We've utilized our right to ask for the DOJ letter, but it's not required. Okay, so if you want to answer those two questions, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Brandy. So regarding the training requirement, definitely there is a challenge to keep track of all 99 neighborhood councils when we receive payment requests and we review BACs. Of course, we do coordinate with DUN staff with their on their website. They maintained a board roster indicating the training completions, and so on a case by case basis, we may refer it or talk to DUN staff. We may contact your NC to confirm the information. The BAC form is an affirmation. There's an affirmation statement that the board is voting as indicated and following program city policies requirements to be able to vote on funding matters. So so there is definitely an issue about being able to confirm that all those votes and all those BACs are as they say, but we have come across situations where we will question or confirm the validity of those votes. As far as what your each individual NC can do on board members who may not have completed their training, and this is not only the funding training but also the other trainings that are required by DUN, like particularly the ethics, open government training, code of conduct. Yeah, it is an issue. Each different neighborhood council may have different guidelines or stipulations in their bylaws as to how board members may be treated when they have not completed their training after a period of time. Whether it's 60 days or 45 days, there are repercussions. So, but that differs from one council to another. Some councils don't say anything about it. That is not something that we manage. However, as far as us reviewing information, yeah, we do review it with the staff that we have. And we work with our colleagues at DUN to confirm information. So moving on to the MPG question and the state verification documents, yeah, we have tried to. It's another level of review that we added to the MPG process. So the IRS letter of determination, the school letter signed by the principal, that is still in place. That hasn't gone. What was added is this state of California documentation, and this was it was something discussed with the work group that we work with, and we've added those two. That it is one or the other. So this is the first year, definitely, like you said, Brandy, that we're implementing this. And we do have the ability to check ourselves. And we're starting to see NCs submit those with their MPG packages when they submit them in the portal. Yeah. And at the moment, it's one or the other. And I'm sure, like you are bringing up, this will be revisited to confirm that it is accomplishing the aim of confirming that these are valid operating nonprofits. So yeah, so that's where we are right now, and that'll be revisited as we move along.
Thank you for that, Brandy. Jay.
I'm sorry, really quick, the RAMP program, I'm not sure I understand how the neighborhood councils are supposed to use this. Are we supposed to make sure that all of the vendors that we use have signed up? Or are we supposed to now be doing some sort of competitive search?
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, thank you for, this is not for the neighborhood councils to do anything with. It's for the vendors. So at one point, as we are working with your vendors on processing the payment request, we instruct the vendors to go into the RAMP portal to register as vendors in the city, and the portal will request them to upload certain documents. So it's not so much also for a matter of competitive bidding. It's more for to register, for the vendors to register and provide some city required documents for contracted vendors.
That answer your question, Brandy?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jay?
Good morning, Melvin.
Good morning. Good morning, Jay.
So I need a little clarification here. When we submitted a request for funding for licensing of movies, that the park was doing movies in the park, and we were helping them by helping with license funding, that license funding was rejected on the grounds that A, we didn't have an event form, although it wasn't our event, it was the parks, and B, I was told we can't fund a third party like that. So it was rejected, and we were told we could not do it. And then the park was told they couldn't hold the community event. So my question is, if that's the case, how are we able to support National Night Out, which is a government agency, a third party, and we're supporting them with purchasing hot dogs, let's say, for them to grill and give out to the community? So is that also something that will be rejected now because it's a third party and it's an event and it's now considered our event because we're trying to fund something for them? I mean, I need some real clarification here, because we've done the movie thing for over 10 years and we've done National Night Out for longer than that. And now all of a sudden everything's being rejected and the neighborhood council's beginning to look like a bunch of fools in the neighborhood and to other city agencies. So can you clarify that for me, please? And for everybody else here who's got National Night Out coming up on August 4th and may be supplying them with something that we're not allowed to supply them with. And if we are, then we should have been able to supply the park with the licensing of the discs.
Yeah, hi, yeah. The issue of third party payment is part of our policies, program policies. The issue of event participating in an event is also has been there. That those rules really haven't changed. What we look for is when an NC is paying for expenses related to a community event, that entails that the NC is at some level sponsoring or hosting or co-hosting the event. And when that is the case, then we would require the NC to submit an event request form indicating that they are co-hosting. Like in this case, if the aim is to support a local city park with an expenditure, then the NC would be assumed to be co-hosting that event and with funding a particular aspect of the event activity. So in this case, if there was a movie involved, then that's what we would expect to see in the event request form, that the NC is co-hosting, and the expenditure that the board has approved is to pay for the movie licensing, for the public will be able to enjoy. And otherwise, if we see an NC trying to pay a bill that for another organization's event, then that enters into the issue of are we paying someone else's bill, and what is the NC's participation in this? And so there are cases where the board may not be having to co-host, and yeah, it can differ whether an MPG may be possible. Or even conducting, sponsoring the event through hosting a booth, so that is another common practice that we see, and NCs will pay a certain amount for someone else's event, and the NC will be able to have a booth at the event, or their banner will be displayed, their name will be, be displayed in the website or social media of the organization. But as far as what you're describing, it sounds like it would have been a co-hosted event between the NC and the park, and so the NC would have needed to have submitted an event request form indicating that they are paying for this particular expense. And with National Night Out, yeah, we every year around this time in July and June, we do handle quite a number of event requests where NCs are either hosting directly National Night Out, or they are co-hosting with their local police station or city council office. In some cases, some MPGs as well. A nonprofit is the one hosting National Night Out. The NC doesn't want to get very much involved in the organizing of the event, so they will do either an MPG or issue a sponsorship amount, a payment to just go and do outreach activities. So there are different ways that can be accomplished, and yeah, definitely National Night Out is a popular one, and we just I know National Night Out, I believe, is already next Tuesday, right? Is it the first Tuesday of August?
Yep.
So
yes, it is.
So we did month of
So
July.
Melvin,
We were doing that.
again, if National Night Out, you were just purchasing, let's say, hot dogs and buns for the police to grill and give out, that makes us an event sponsor?
A co-host. I mean, if you're involved, it's you're co-hosting an event when you are using NC funds for, another event. or yeah.
Okay. Can I ask this a different way, Melvin, just to get clarity? So if a neighborhood council is asked to have an outreach table at, say, Movies in the Park or National Night Out, and that neighborhood council decides to pass out bottled water as part of their outreach, you're telling us now we have to have a 30-day event for them, even though we're not co-hosts and we're not anything. We're just as an outreach table to hand out outreach materials and water as,
Yeah,
as
no,
a
and actually,
gesture?
yeah, no, and that is something that our policies do touch on, specifically the example that you just happened to present. Yeah, if you are going to, NCs are able to do outreach activities, and having a
Uh-huh.
booth at someone else's event where you're going to be passing out information about the neighborhood council, and if you want to do is also, to attract people, you want to have some snacks, some water, some
Correct.
prepackaged, cookies, whatever, and people come in and you engage with them that way. Yeah, those are minimal expenses that are where you are just doing outreach. And maybe you supported the event through a sponsorship payment. You pay, for example, $300 or $500 so that you can have that booth and engage with the attendees. Now, some NCs we've seen is that they want to have a taco truck next to them. They want to have a DJ be playing with them. So then we're getting into other levels of participation in the event where it's not just hosting a booth. You are increasing, what we look at it from here, the levels of risk or liability for the city. So then in this case, in those cases, yeah, we would ask the NC to submit an event request form because we want to hire a DJ to provide music next to our booth. We want to hire a taco food truck to provide food. So yeah, so in those cases, then an event request form would be expected.
Okay, but snacks, giving out water, or maybe some
Right.
sodas would be
Yeah.
perfectly okay because it's as
Yeah,
part
to-
of the outreach. Okay, just wanted to make sure on that.
Yes.
Because we've had what, 3 different clerks already in the last, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, and they each have a different answer. So we just want to make sure the clarity's there.
Oh yeah, no. So definitely, and that's why it's important. If you let us know ahead of time, what you're planning on doing, we can advise you. Yeah, how to proceed. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you. Laura?
Yeah, well, I didn't raise my hand about this in the first place, but I will. There are certain annual events that we all are looking at, and Movies in the Park, because almost all of our communities have Movies in the Park. Fire Service Day in May, National Night Out, and Homeless Count. And there may be others.
Right.
And then there's obviously other community events. I think the problem is for the handbook, you're not being all that clear. I think because I have clarity, but this is after many years of doing it and trying different things. Almost all of them, if you're buying hot dogs for the firemen, the food for Fire Service Day, if we're buying food for volunteers for Homeless Count, all of those, yes. I mean, I know yes, but everyone should know yes with clarity. It should be in your forms. Yes, you become a secondary co-host. When you ask for the budget, it's our budget, and we have no knowledge of the whole budget. We can't be required to know how much the fire department is paying to open their firehouse for a given day, for example. But you need to make sure that that's clear in the application so there's no delays. It's not clear at the moment. When we have a community booth where we've paid rent for the booth, you need to make clear that we can only pay half of it up front. And the second half has to be paid after the event has occurred and you really had a booth. There's nothing in your form that actually says it in English, words out loud. So, if there was more clarity, there would be less confusion or less different answers on the level of the clerks. And then also, I think you need to make more clear for these events. Are you buying the packaged food? I mean, you have it there, but it's just spread all over the place. Are you buying packaged food or are you buying pizza? Because if you're buying pizza or Subway sandwiches, even from national vendors, you need their health permit. If you're buying packaged food, you do not. And okay, we know that, but it's not clear for people who are new and haven't done it before. Even for the stuff you're giving away. So I think there just needs to be more clarity in those documents. Okay, so that wasn't why I raised my hand. So I have a couple of questions. Are you planning any extra training at all for financial officers in the portal training? You referenced a financial officer handbook. Well, is that different than the NCFP handbook? Because I've been a financial officer since 2019. I don't have a financial officer's handbook. So I don't, so if there is one, why don't I? But is there any extra training? Because not knowing how to use a portal kind of would prevent an officer from performing his or her duties. So I'm just going to go through a couple other things. Can an NC, in fact, have 4 financial officers? The treasurer, pretty obvious what that person is. The primary signer, that's not what you call them, but the primary signer isn't necessarily the treasurer. Treasurer has enough to do. The primary signer is the person getting the BAC from whoever's preparing the BAC, ideally the primary signer, but it might be the secretary. It's somebody's tasked in a board meeting to do the BACs. But somebody then has to review them, make sure it's accurate, put the first signature on, and then have a second person sign it. So the way UNNC does it, the treasurer is the ideal second signer. I am the third, so I'm the alternative signer. The treasurer, our particular treasurer, travels a lot, so it's often my signature. We have 2 card holders. Well, if you start adding up all these duties, that equals perhaps more than 3 people. I've been told we can only have officially 3 officers, but we want to have somebody who can hold the card, another card, credit card, and who's available to use it. Would that person, I mean, I know we can have another card holder, but that person wouldn't necessarily be deemed a financial officer if we're limited to 3. So, but I was told we can't have 4. We can have 4, but not officially 4. Last but so not least, on this new funding training, we don't know who's taken it. I took it. I passed that test. I'm not updated. I mean, I know I passed it because y'all sent me an email saying, yay, you passed. But the Dunn website's not been updated. So I don't know what's going on between the clerk and Dunn. But if you would not mind, it'd be harder. But either when you send out that form to anyone who's taken the test and passed, say, provide this to your president, or you provide it to the president. Somebody needs to tell us, because we're coming up to meetings where they're either going to be allowed to vote on funding matters or they aren't. And if we don't know who's taken the test training and passed the test, that's going to be real hard. So that's my list.
Laura, I don't know, but I know I've been to 3 different neighborhood council meetings, and counting mine is the 4th. The NEAs have all said that once you pass the training, you're supposed to send them forward them the email. That's what they said.
Do they say that now? So my NEA, first of all, no, that doesn't seem the right way to do it. I mean, if we're going to force everybody to send the training, they may as well send it to the board president and vice president as well.
Well, I'm just telling you what the NEA said. I'm just telling you what the NEA, and that was at Van Nuys. It was at my neighborhood. It was a few others also. So
Dunn, in that view, Dunn is giving up on keeping their training portal online updated. That doesn't make sense.
No, I didn't say that at all. What I said was that it gets sent to the NEA, and then they are making sure that it gets updated. That's what their comments had said.
Well, you heard my but anyway, number of financial officers is the real question then.
And Terrence, just so you know, the city clerk's office funding folks have told me that they forward it because it's their YouTube, it's their Google form, that they forward it to Dunn. Yeah. So Melvin,
can I just make clear? Here's the other problem. As of yesterday, only a little more than 400 people had even viewed training number 1. I mean, the first video, and only 208 people had even viewed by number 6, because you can see on YouTube how many views there's been. So we're not piercing our boards very well.
All right.
Okay.
Doug or Melvin, you got the comment, and then we'll go to Doug.
Okay, so yeah, going to the financial officer question, Laura. Yeah, there can be technically five separate financial officers, considering that one is the treasurer, right?
Right.
And the treasurer is basically, yeah, as you were saying, technically the primary signer. They're the treasurer, and their signature definitely is required. Then there is what we used to call, a second signer.
Right.
There is a second signer who verifies the information and documentation, and we allowed for an alternate signer in case the second signer is not available for whatever reason. There is an alternate signer, so that's three separate board members there, and then there's the two card holders, card holder and the second card holder. Now sometimes the treasurer may be a card holder, or one of the signers may be a card holder, right?
Correct.
So
I don't think the controller allows the treasurer to be a card holder. Remember, there was that scandal. Money went to Brazil or something sometime.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's not allowed. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll then have to review our policy with the controllers.
That was in your younger years, but there was a time in 2014. I know the date because that's when we created a job on our bylaws called signatory, and that person had to have.
Right. So I know I got some contact from the controller's office this week, and wondering what they're going to talk about. Yeah. So technically, it could be up to 5 separate individual board members, right? Actually, and the bigger issue of the training, yes, that is something that we are dealing with, addressing, because it's a new way, a new training. A cornerstone was up and down whether it was going to remain or not, and there was this other database that Dan was relying on that is no longer available because of funding cuts. So we've had to retool this whole tracking of training completion. So to get some clarity myself, yes, I did, not trying to put Dunn staff here and, when they're not here to address it, but I did talk to some of their system staff to be clear, okay, how soon we can expect the information to be updated. And so, it's at least once a week. The aim is to be reviewing the information every Monday, possibly into Tuesday because of the amount of data that may be coming in. And once they review the information, which I will get into where that information is coming from, then they update their board roster. The board roster does take, because it's part of the city IT system, if you will, it takes until the next day to update. So whatever updates they make on Monday, the update will reflect by Tuesday. And any updates on Tuesday, it'll reflect on Wednesday. Okay, but however, where is Dunn getting that information from? They are getting it from an online document that we've created with the YouTube trainings. So anytime a board member completes the training, it feeds into the document that we have. Dunn staff has access to the document. That is where their system staff go in to check, like I said, on Mondays and or Tuesdays, and they maintain it. So at the moment, the information is being updated or should be updated at least once a week, and this is per discussion just this last week. Okay, so now the other things that you mentioned is should you send it to the NEA? As a backup, I would. I mean, this was just as a backup. Hey, Mario or Alfonso, here's my email from city clerk. I'm forwarding it to you that I completed my training. Please be sure that my roster information is updated. That way they can also have that information on their end. Now, we do see an issue there if the information is being updated only once a week, is that, for those of you that may be having meetings on Wednesdays and Thursdays and what have you, and you just took the training that day, yeah, that Wednesday night or Thursday night, the portal, the done roster website may not reflect it, but you will have that email, from us that you took that training. Those emails we do send basically on a daily basis because we get a report on our end, who has taken the training and whether they passed or not, and then we send you those emails that you're getting. That's your confirmation verification that you completed and passed the training, which you may need at your meeting that evening in case it becomes a question. We have that information, so whenever we need to check any question about whether, when someone completed a training, we manage that information now. And so this is something new because before everything fed pretty much into the database that done managed, and they worked with us, but that process unfortunately is no longer available because of some budget cuts. And so we are definitely talking to Don to make sure that this sensitive information is maintained in a timely manner. So I do hear you, and yeah, we're working with Don and within our program to make sure that information is kept up to date.
Okay, thank you. And I know there's a lot of hands, but I do want to make clear, at least for UNNC, if our treasurer or our primary signer, if either one has not attended a meeting, we do not allow them to certify the BAC, because on what basis would they have to certify it? So that's how we end up with two signatures, perhaps, that are not the treasurer, if our treasurer wasn't able to be at the meeting, because you're certifying that this action actually took place at that meeting, at that time on the agenda.
Got it. Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Douglas.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just zoning out there.
I saw that.
I haven't taken the financial training yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. So, a couple of things. First of all, I may be the only one in the city who's seen this, but earlier this week, the Department of Recreation and Parks sent a memo to all of its facilities informing them that all neighborhood purpose grants applied for by any Rec and Parks facility must now go through the Rec and Parks Foundation. So I don't know if you know that, Melvin, but okay. I don't know how many neighborhood council people know that, but that's going to be interesting. And I just wonder if a rec center, for instance, filed directly with the neighbor for an NPG with the council and they sent it over, I'm assuming you would reject it.
Correct. Yeah, yes, that was okay. We've had NPG submitted by the rec centers directly or Rec and Park Department directly, and they're not eligible applicants.
Well, no, I know, but a lot of different groups with Rec and Parks, for instance, down here we have a lot of museums. They have friends of groups that file for those NPGs.
Right.
And I'm not sure whether they would be now forced to go through the LA Parks Foundation or not. Okay. And that's where it gets, for like us,
right.
It gets to be a bit of a gray area. So that's just something.
That'll be, I don't know if the department as a whole, as a department, has developed their own criteria or rules for the local parks to follow. But if there are friends of that are 501c3s, like this applies, I see more common with libraries, friends of the local branch library. That's where we see, or there is also the library foundation that may also apply. But as far as parks are concerned, recreation centers, what we normally see more common is the LA Parks Foundation be the applicant because they are the 501c3.
Yeah, and I asked because down here in San Pedro we have Point Furman Lighthouse, we have White Point Nature Preserve, we have LA Maritime Museum. We have all these groups that are actually park related or you know what I'm saying? And so for us, that potentially gets to be a gray area. And we have given these groups NPGs.
Well,
So
yeah, I would
just want you to
yeah.
be aware of it. Yeah.
No, that's good to know. Yeah, and that this is more on the park director now, or the director of the lighthouse. I don't know what their title is, who manages the lighthouses, to make sure that they, I guess, follow, if you will, the directives of the department as a whole. I mean, whether, yeah, but can we accept MPGs from friends of, as long as they are 501c3, they're eligible. I would just be concerned with what this matter, if the department has now set its own internal policies.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the memo. Memo was
Yeah.
forwarded to me by someone, and
Okay.
here's the other thing though that I have a real concern about. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but at the end of May, and I'm the credit card holder for Coastal San Pedro. We paid. Well, we tried to pay for a couple of things that are recurring payment with a credit card, and it was rejected. Now, the crazy part is at the same time, a third thing wasn't rejected. I checked with our then NEA. We've subsequently got a new one, and the result was that the amount that U.S. Bank said was available versus the amount that the city clerk's office said was available were over $800 apart. And I know your people work hard and I love them, but when I had the discussion with our then funding rep who checked with the bank, what I got back was, this doesn't make any sense. We'll have to figure it out. I'm sorry, but I had a couple of not happy vendors who all I could say to is, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait till we get it worked out. I never heard back from you guys. Am I the only neighborhood council that's had this problem? I suspect it's with the bank, and I don't want to run into it again. So I'm just raising that flag.
If I heard you correctly, Doug, if a transaction, the transaction got rejected, or it
Two
went through?
transactions were rejected
Okay.
because, according to U.S. Bank, we didn't have enough money left in the account. However, when I went to check the portal, and we do very good accounting here, we've done it for years. The portal said we had plenty of money, and when I talked to our funding rep at your office, they said, yeah, you should have plenty of money. We do not know why the bank thinks you don't.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying here?
Sure. No, so
Yeah.
keep in mind, okay, now I think I can understand more. Yeah, so keep in mind that the bank card is tied directly to the limits in the bank, not with the portal. So while the portal may say that you still have $20,000 in your overall account,
Well,
the bank accounts for that particular card has limits of up to 5,000 for the month and 1,000 limit per single transaction. So
we didn't get anywhere close to that.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, and we keep track. We keep very careful track of everything.
Of your card expenditures.
Of everything.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere along the line, I think somebody messed up. But I want
and in those cases, we'll be happy to, we ask that your card holders contact the bank directly to see what's going on, what they find out. If not, we will.
I'm laughing because I did. I
You did,
that.
yeah.
And the bank was like, we can't help you. You have to talk to the city clerk's office.
Okay, and we'll call our accounting team. That manages the bank accounts. Will call, and we've done that a number of times to find out what's going on. Yeah. So
it just for me it raised a real red flag because we're talking about. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money, but $800. It's like, where did it go, and why is the bank saying this, and you're saying this, and you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
There was something very strange about the whole thing. So
okay.
Anyway.
All right.
That's all I have. By the way, you guys do a good job. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner. Kathy, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Melvin. My name's Kathy Schreiner, and I'm the president of the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council. I'm wanting to talk. First of all, I can say I did take the training, and by a week from when I took it, it did show up on the roster. So I hope maybe your system wasn't working earlier, but is working now. But
Right.
having taken the training, I'm just extremely concerned. It's way too detailed for most board members. And I'm a professional trainer, and we're told never to just read the slides. You know, the training that just reads the slides is not good training. So I know you can't change all that right away. But the fact that you think that every board member needs to know all of these financial rules is just not reasonable. And I can tell you that I have board members who will not be able to pass that training. And I'm very concerned about it. So I need to just raise this issue to you.
You froze up.
Uh-oh.
She froze, right?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
yeah,
I see you, Melvin. So
Yeah, no,
right.
Kathy, thank you for bringing that up, and I appreciate your input on the training. Believe me, I'm not a professional training developer, but I do like the trainings to be, interactive and not so text heavy. And so this is something definitely that we're going to be looking at how we can improve this particular training that we have at the moment. It is very dense in terms of the information provided. Um, and yeah, we'll definitely be looking into that as well. But yeah, we are wanting to strike a balance. We hope in terms of the information that financial officers need to have in for their capacity serving as financial officers. But also, and understand board members may, they're not there to learn all the financial rules, and maybe they don't need to. But in a way, it's the entire board voting on funding matters, and so we do want them to have a level information, same level of information. But yeah, Kathy will be maybe hearing. I think you said you're a professional trainer. Maybe we can talk and see what suggestions you have.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kathy. Heath, good morning, sir.
Good morning. And a couple of questions. Melvin, before I get to my questions, it's been going back and forth in the chat that the Parks and Rec Foundation charges an administrative fee. Well, as someone who has taken his new training, we know that operational expenses for nonprofits are not reimbursable. So why does Park and Recs get to skim off the top of all the NPGs that they get? And I'll let you answer that, and then we'll get into my topics.
So yeah, no, you're correct, and so this is something, and this is not something just with the Rec and Parks and the foundation. This comes across with whenever we see NPGs that involve a fiscal sponsor, right? Because some organizations out there are not yet fully operating as their own 501c3, so they operate under a fiscal sponsor. We see this more common. Well, yeah, the LA Parks Foundation, the Library Foundation, I believe is it the California Endowment, or I may be getting the name wrong, is another common one that we used to see way at the beginning. And so there was a discussion had about that, about in order for these organizations that are looking for the funding, and the NC has approved the funding, that part of that arrangement is an understanding that these fiscal sponsors do take an administrative percentage for managing those funds for the organization that will actually be getting the money. So that is something that we are aware of, and that we have allowed for fiscal sponsors to charge that percentage. And so it is an issue.
Well, I think that's terrible. Unless, of course, you allow treasurers to charge an administrative fee too for all the hours that we have to put in to comply with everything. Laugh out loud. You also mentioned earlier that the clerk's office will be reaching out to your vendors, quote unquote, about becoming WRAP compliant. What exactly are you going to be doing with vendors? And will there be a flag on the portal saying that this vendor is now WRAP compliant versus vendors that have not yet completed the task? And that gets into cleaning up all the duplicate vendors that are on the portal. And, I know why you leave them there, because past history was done, but it makes no sense, if you're trying to track volume of business done with a given vendor, that you allow so many variants of the same vendor to exist on the portal. So can you address exactly what this WRAP means and what we should be telling prospective vendors that they should be prepared to do or to get a jump on this?
Yeah, and so to provide a little more clarity on this with the RAMP, RAMP, this is something that is done during the initial steps of completing the agreement. So it's during the process of working with the vendor to execute the agreement or contract. While when we're drafting the contract and we're working with Office of Risk Management, the city attorney's office, one of those additional steps now is we send a link to the vendor when we are working with them on completing the agreement, that they now need to register, and depending on the type of vendor that they are, or they will be asked to upload, for example, their certificate of insurance, upload their waivers for certain financial waivers that the program, the portal, the RAMP portal requests of them. So this do tend to be, from my, I wish I had my contracts coordinator here with me to give me more details, but they do tend to be documents that we ourselves used to ask for as part of the agreement process. Where this has become an issue is when we are dealing with small local mom and pop vendors that may not be used to this certain level of documentation. They may not be registered with the city, perhaps even with the Office of Finance, and they have to go through this process. But if these are more established vendors, they may already have a lot of this documentation in hand, and it's a matter now uploading it to this new city portal.
Right. But are you going to flag the vendor portal to indicate that this vendor is RAMP complete? And for example, you have their business tax registration certificate on file, you have their W-9, because what you just talked about in the vignettes a moment ago for vendors that you're spending over $5,000 with, because you're saying it's a contract and we're doing these things. But as you know, because I'm the one that's raised this issue with you repeatedly, back in the old days, when Dunn was handling finances, the one thing that they did that was good was they required that you, for a new vendor, you provide their business tax registration certificate as well as their W-9 if it was over $600.
Right.
But now, as you told me, even though the Office of Finance says anyone doing business in the city of Los Angeles, for more than 6 days or over a certain amount, has to have a business tax registration certificate. Yet you don't enforce that. So I brought up the example with you last year where our NC voted to sponsor a table at a 10th anniversary for a commercial business. And when I went to look for their BRTC online, which you can do at the Office of Finance, they don't have one. So we gave money to a business celebrating their 10th anniversary of operating in the city of LA. Yet for 10 years, they've been operating illegally. And, you said, well, they get to do it because it's under $5,000. Well, neighborhood councils are supposed to be the conduit of information from stakeholders to the city. And we're supposed to be communicating the city back to our stakeholders. So when we have a one-on-one interaction with a small local business and I'm told, no, you didn't need to ask them for their business license, and we don't care, and we don't care that the Office of Finance in their silo says it's required. We don't care. That's wrong.
Heath, you've touched on an issue that we were just having a conversation with our our senior accountant in the program about our program and what there's a system in the city, the financial management system, FMS, that does track what you're talking about for vendors that the city does business with. An issue with our program is that we operate mostly outside of FMS. We operate internally with our NC funding portal. I like what you mentioned earlier about those vendors who may be, what I understood, those vendors who may be already registered with RAMP and have gone through the process of registering with RAMP, which means that they would be registered with Office of Finance as well. Make a note of it in our funding portal under the list of vendors that NCs do business with, so that NCs that are looking for a vendor to do business with, they can refer to our portal as well to see what vendors are already registered. That's something that I'm taking notes of here to see if we can connect with RAMP that way as we revisit our RAMP. As we revisit our portal. But it is an issue and something that we can contend
for an
with the
NPG,
W-9.
you asked us, and there's a place to upload the IRS determination letter for a for-profit business. You have a place to upload the W-9, yet you don't indicate if the W-9 on an established vendor is there. And it seems kind of silly when we have a vendor that I've been doing business with for 20 years, and I know that the W-9 is uploaded, that when I submit an invoice, the clerk sends it back and says, well, you didn't upload the W-9. And I go, it's already on the portal, and I know it's on the portal,
right.
And you're just making me go through the motions for no purpose.
Well, and the so there is definitely, I don't want to come across that we're not definitely collecting documents that are required by the city. We do collect a minimum level of documents that are required, fiscally speaking, for the city, like W-9s. W-9s do need to be updated, and now in conversation with the controller's office, they do want us to basically update them on an annual basis. And I think part of that has to do because of the realization or the fact that we operate outside of FMS. So the controller has asked that we maintain certain documents updated more on a more common, on a more timely basis, such as W-9s. And so there will be cases where we will reach out to your NCs to request a W-9 in case one is already considered obsolete or too old, and we'll need to get new ones. But the BTRCs is something also that we check the BTRC record on our end. We do have access to Office of Finance records to determine.
But only over $5,000 is what you told me. So we can have small businesses operating in our communities illegally for a decade. And still do business with them.
Definitely, if there is a contract involved with a vendor, those are documents that we definitely must collect, the W-9, BTRC, and others. So the $5,000 amount, Heath, may have to do more when we are required to do a contract, in which case.
And I totally get that. But my point is, we have a business operating in our community illegally, according to the city's records, to the Office of Finance system, and you told me we don't care.
No, no, we definitely care. We definitely care. Believe me, this is something.
Well, if you care, then you should require, that the BRTC get uploaded for all the vendors, and that should be an easy thing to add to the portal. It was there at one time.
No, Got it, Heath. Yeah, no, thank you for your comments. Yeah.
You make a recommendation on that, Melvin? Why not in RAMP? Why don't they have it where the vendor uploads the W-9 and the BTRC and then it's always done?
Not every vendor has to go through RAMP. The RAMP is specifically for those that we must enter into contract with for some reason. Well, depending on what you tell us, either you want to enter into a contract with a certain vendor for some services.
Well, I've had other departments I've done work for, and it wasn't a contract. It was, and they still required all that. So,
yeah.
And I'm like,
because of FMS.
Yeah.
You should comply with FMS also. You're a city department, and we as the councils can do it, but you have to empower us. And I'm sure there's a pun intended in there. I have a couple other quick issues. Are you aware of the fact that you have broken, deprecated Cold Fusion code that causes people using modern browsers to not be able to generate their MERS? Are you are you also aware, and I don't know if anyone else has had this problem, that when I try to upload our admin packet this year, I'm told that I don't have the necessary privileges to do so. And I've been going in a circle with our rep on that.
No, Heath, first time I'm hearing of this, so I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards and reach out to our system staff to address those concerns. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's prompts and I'll send you stuff on it.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give other people a chance, or I could go till 3 p.m. with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Heath.
Sorry, I had my microphone off. Lydia, Grant, good morning or good afternoon. You're already there.
Yes, good morning. I wanted to go back to what was being discussed earlier about having events. And some of the stuff that we have to do is, I'm sure many of the neighbor councils would say it's just ridiculous, the amount of paperwork and stuff that has to be done. We do tree waterings. So what we have is the council office provides the water. We go to the municipal building. We fill up gallons of water, and then community members go out and water all the trees. And the city clerk's office, because we'll buy like water or snacks for them, we have to fill out event forms. When we are partnering with the council office on something, including things like National Night Out, the departments always said, well, it's all about the liability. And that's why we have to do the event forms and all that. But if the city council office is already partnering in whatever the event is, that's where the liability should lie. And we shouldn't have to jump through additional hoops to fill out event forms to water trees for 2 hours on a Saturday when the council office is working with us. So there's a lot of things like that. I did want to say this year, National Night Out, we did different because the department has so many rules and problems. We had another group become the main source of the National Night Out, and we are paying them money. What we did, and I'm just saying this for other board members, is they're going to do the outreach. So we paid them $2,000 for banners and flyers and all those things. But then when we submitted to the city clerk's office for payment for that nonprofit, they turn around and said, oh, well, we need a breakdown of exactly what they're spending the money on. So just to let people know, the best way to do it is to get an invoice written out for advertising for National Night Out event. The STNC or the neighborhood council will be receiving a table. They'll be receiving banner, or the community will be imprinted on all the banners, flyers, and other outreach materials in regards to the event. But again, the council office is also there, and it just seems like it's so much extra work. When we then did that, because if you don't do that and put what they're going to exactly use it for, then they come back and want a breakdown of how the money is going to be used by that or other organization. We used to do national night outs all the time. We've always done them. They've been done in my community since they first started. And this year it's now we have to pay for a staff member. And when we went to do the 4th of July parade, now we have to pay for DOT, and we have to pay towards the police, and we have to pay for the barriers. We have to pay for the signage. I just want to warn neighborhood councils that services that the city was providing are now not being provided necessarily. So before you schedule your events, please make sure that you get full costs. And the reason I say that is because they were giving us a week and a half before the event. We were still getting invoices from the city of what they wanted for us to be able to do our parade. And they still never gave us all the invoices so we could plan accordingly. So I think that, Melvin, you need to be aware of that. If we can't get DOT, and we had submitted our paperwork back in February for 4th of July, if we cannot get the city departments to tell us what it's going to cost, if there is going to be a cost, then the city clerk's office needs to do something about that, because it's causing events to have to be canceled. And we were luckily able to do ours by doing last minute, but for something we've never paid the city for before, they billed us for over $25,000. And I just wanted to bring that up because it is becoming so hand tying to be able to do events.
Thank you, Lydia. Yeah, going back to the first matter that you brought up about the project involving watering trees. Yeah, that doesn't sound at all like it should be. It would be handled as a community event. So I can definitely look into that more. It sounds like, if anything, it would be a community improvement project. And for that, we may want to, get confirmation that the NC is working with the appropriate city agency, that they have the appropriate authorization or permit, if you will, or okay from the local director that is managing those trees, to make sure that the NC is able to assist in watering those trees. I mean, if that's a city property, we want to ensure that all the necessary parties that are usually involved are involved, and so that. But this sounds more of a community improvement project, and we've handled similar projects to that in the past, where some councils may even have an account with DWP to put on a water spigot near some trees to be watered, or in this case, NCs may work with DOT or Rec and Parks or what have you, to make sure that trees or other greenery in the community gets maintained. So NCs do get involved in projects like that. It wouldn't be an event.
Stop for one quick second. I hear what you're saying, but I also would like you to hear what you're saying. You are now adding, after we've been doing this for over, I don't even know how many years, now you're adding new layers. We need this permission. We need that permission. We may need to look into this. We may need to look into that. This is the problem. You are exactly speaking the problem. So go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. No, well, look, I mean, we understand that, neighborhood councils are, as NCs, you are your own entities in the community, and you are funded to carry out certain functions and operations within your community. But when it comes to working across, with projects that involve other city agencies, we do. That's part of our job, to ensure that those connections, if you will, arrangements with those other city departments are part of the process. And so, neighborhood councils don't necessarily manage city trees. That's the duty of another city department. So if an NC wants to get involved in maintaining trees for the city, then some departments will work with NCs to allow NCs to work on that. So we want to be sure that that has been taken care of on that end. So we will ask for whether it's some departments will ask NCs to apply for a permit. In other cases, a director of a city agency, like a Rec and Parks, will simply send an email. Hey, yeah, we can work together on this, and that's what we look for. So depending on the situation, there may be different requirements involved, Lydia.
Thank you for that. Glenn?
First of all, Melvin, thank you very much for being here with us on a Saturday morning, now afternoon. Appreciate that. I also want to thank you and the city clerk's office for convening the neighbor council funding work group. I think that was a very robust conversation with a diversity throughout the city. And, we were not all of one mind, which is why you have multiple people involved, neighbor council folks. And, that did generate some things that, even then in the work group, we knew were not consensus items. But I would say that as with many things in the cities and things related to neighbor councils, it's unfortunately the bad behavior of a small number of neighbor councils or individuals with neighbor councils that cause new rules, new ordinances, new trainings, whatever. So, but I know you've taken some heat with regards to making sure that neighborhood purposes grants are not swept under the rug because they're included with a long list of consent items. Same thing with monthly expenditure reports. I think those in particular are extraordinarily important to the neighbor council's fiduciary responsibility overseeing public funds. So thank you for standing the ground on that. I do have several items. I do think just a little bit of clarity regarding the funding cannot be on consent calendar, but can be individual list on the agenda and one motion to approve a list of things. I'm okay with that as long as they're treated with the ability for board members and the public to do public comment individually, and they're not also grouped together if they had comment on, because I've seen the abuse over the years, right? You got 1 minute and they put 10 items on the list, right? You can't do justice. And sometimes when people are well-intentioned, meaningful input, you can't do 10 items in 1 minute. So, but just, I think there may need some clarification, because even after you sent out that direction a couple of weeks ago, there was a neighbor council that proceeded to list something on consent. Now, they didn't treat it as consent, but they list on the agenda as consent. So I just think that reminder probably needs to go out multiple times. Also, you ask us to make sure our receipts and invoices are itemized. So it was rather shocking that the Department of Neighbor Empowerment, when they came time to send the invoices for our Canva and Zoom licenses, did not itemize them. And thank you for acknowledging my email and agreeing that they should have been itemized. But there seems to be, I think that maybe the people who do the billing it done need to take the same trainings that we do, right? And so they're aware that things do need to be itemized, because that caused, so we didn't get our corrected invoice until June 1st, the last day to submit a check request. We were able to get in 2 of our check requests, but not the 3rd one for our Canva and our Zoom. And not till 10:30 at night, so we barely made the cutoff day. But the problem was it's a self-inflicted wound, because your partner Dunn doesn't seem to know what we all know, which is invoices, receipts have to be itemized. So I hope that'll get fixed going forward. I think we've addressed the financial officer's handbook, and in a previous meeting, I'm not totally clear that I do agree that board members need to have more detail about the trainings and how we do about it. You've chosen to do it in the way you've done. But I'm hearing that for financial officers who do need to have more detail, that they're referenced the financial handbook. Thank you for doing that. But I'm concerned that a lot of people are not going to take 60 pages, 80-page document, and go through it, even though it does have a lot of diagrams and screenshots, etc. I'm just a bit concerned about that. And yet I don't want to impose on all these up to 5 financial officers per neighborhood council, a whole nother thing. Obviously, the treasurer does need to have is the primary point person because they have to upload payment requests, but I just want to express that concern. Regarding NPGs, so again, thanks for expanding the form and the information. That's very helpful, I think, for neighborhood as they evaluate the NPGs. I just want to share with you, we had one applicant who I would say that they're not a regular habitual applicant for NPGs, but they are a community-based organization that's been out in the community for probably 10 years. And they've decided to kind of ramp it out to multiple neighborhood councils in their service area. And they're truly a nonprofit. They don't have highly paid, they're all volunteers. But when they submitted the documentation from the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, Attorney General, the documentation came back was that they were, I'm not exactly sure the wording, but basically they weren't registered as a charity, or they weren't registered. So they provided something that came from Department of Justice, but it wasn't what I think you and I would be expecting, which is, yes, they're on file, they're in good standing, So that's what they're claiming is all that's needed. And I would second the suggestion of having the Secretary of State statement of organization, I think is as well, so that we know that they're on file, who the contact people are, and then that they're actually registered as a charity. And then just somewhat related to that, so the Los Angeles Parks Foundation, I'm sure they're not the only foundation, but I was around when they were first set up. They were set up by at least one commissioner who was a commissioner at the time of the Recreation and Parks Commission. And they're very closely held. Yes, they're legally a nonprofit 501c, but they were set up under the auspices of the structure of the Department of Recreation and Parks with the commission. I think he might have even been president of the commission at the time. Their hired paid staff was the chief deputy of a former council member. I was council member at the time, and as of 2020, the 990 financial form filed showed that the director position of the LA Parks Foundation received $127,000 annual salary. Now that may not be that much in the scheme of things, but when we're neighborhood councils get paid nothing, and we only have 25,000, and we have lots of nonprofits in the community, their 12%, I'm hearing that from several sources, 12% administrative fee, they can waive that. They're not required to charge that. And frankly, if they're taking city money from neighborhood councils, and I don't know what their new executive director is making, but I'm sure it's way more than the 127 that was reported, 6 years ago. So I have one's a legal question, administrative costs. They clearly indicate that that's administrative costs, which we're not allowed to provide to any other organization. But the other is a moral question, because they were set up to benefit and be the fiduciary arm for recreation parks. They're not a totally separate organization. Yeah, legally under the law, yes, they are, but they are definitely one of those very closely held operations. And I'm sure they're not the only one, but it just happens that in 2008, when they were first formed, I just happened to be around and saw that. So I'm distressed, frankly, that this turn of events, because over the years, we, the neighborhood councils, have worked with a variety of nonprofit groups that supported a variety of park-related matters that Recreation Parks was comfortable working with, whether it was one of the senior centers that the parks worked with, or just a Friends of the Park type group. And now to hear, this is the first I'm hearing today, was that they're now mandating this, and I'm just saying there's a conflict of interest there, given their relationship and this 12% funding that's coming from the neighborhood councils. And admittedly, in the scheme of things, it's maybe not that much, but on principle. So I would encourage all of us to boycott the LA Parks Foundation. And when we get in writing from our friend Mr. Eberhardt, if he's willing to share this communication documenting this decision of Recreation Parks, we should go to the Recreation Parks Commission, even though they're not the commissioners. But given the history, this needs to be made public, in my opinion. We can also, write to the commission. Obviously, the Parks Foundation, I don't know, they may voluntarily say, "You're right. This is not right," and maybe they'll just waive it for using, neighborhood council city money for the things that we wanted to do. They're there for the purpose of benefiting parks, and not to be paying, I think it's $500,000 in salaries, and when other nonprofits are not have paid staff. So anyway, any of those things you want to comment on? Oh, one more thing. So I took your new funding training on June 4th. I put it in chat. June 4th, I took it, and I did email Dunn afterwards and said, here's what I got. So it's now almost 2 months later, and so I'm afraid you're misinformed by the department, because my funding training is not yet posted, and it's almost 2 months. It'll be 2 months and 3 days. So they're telling you it's done every week. That's not true in my case. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, appreciate your comments. Quite a number of issues here to address. I'm not going to touch on all of them, but regarding the updating of the training completions, the systems or the staff had done, I think, is something that they are, after much discussion within the department, they've now come up with a plan of how they're going to be updating it, so that once a month, Mondays or Tuesdays plan is something rather new. Yeah, back in June, it sounds like your completion. It sounds like, unfortunately, it's gotten well, not lost. That may not be the right word to say, but that should definitely have already been updated. I will double check and confirm what's going on, but I believe that now there is a plan of how to continue moving forward with the new fiscal year now in place. So we'll look into that. Yeah, sorry to hear about that. The discussion of the LA Parks Foundation, you said a lot here, and to look into or to consider, we'll take some of this in consideration. Yeah, keep in mind that neighborhood councils, when you are reviewing MPG requests at your board meetings, neighborhood councils should get into, I would hope, a habit, if it's not there yet, of engaging the applicant. You don't need to take all or nothing of what the applicant is requesting for. So we've seen some MPGs where the ask is for $5,000, and $3,000 is for this, and $2,000 is for something else that may not be eligible funding under MPG processes, but the NC approves everything. And so we cannot now fund the entire request because it includes funding that is not eligible. And so then we have to reject the entire request. But at the board level, the board could say, hey, you know what, we can fund the $3,000 here, but we cannot fund the other $2,000 because either we don't want to support that, or this is not eligible. So you're able to do that. In the case of the LA Parks Foundation, I think it's reasonable to engage the applicant at that time. You know what? For the reasons that you've mentioned, Glenn, I think are valid, that if 10-12% of the funding is going to their own internal administrative costs, which every organization has that, hey, but can you reduce that, or can you waive that? That can be a better conversation at a higher level, perhaps between park leadership and the foundation leadership, to see if that can be done, considering that, what you mentioned, NCs do have limited resources, and has shrunk over the last 2 years, and you have other matters in which you may want to support your community. The other option as well is that you may be able to work directly with the park, either by co-hosting an event with them, maybe that event that the foundation is applying for funding for is related to an event, there might be an opportunity to work directly with the park, or if the park is offering some type of a sponsorship opportunities, which I believe some may, that can be another possibility. So MPGs is not the only way of supporting the park, and that way your funding goes more directly to what the final intent is. But yeah, but this question of the relationship between the foundation and the parks is something to look into, and we'll consider it here. We've had conversations with Dunn regarding the Canva and their invoices not being itemized. We reached out to their management and accounting, and we've discussed with them that concern that the invoices needs to be itemized, and we have seen them. They resubmitted them, made them available itemized, and that should be across the board. If that's still not happening, then we'll need to revisit that with Dunn staff. Yeah, I also took notes on your comments about the MPGs, Glenn, about the documentation from the state and Secretary of State statement as well. So we'll be taking a look at that as well.
And Melvin, just in terms of adequate documentation, if you could empower your folks or instruct them to refer them up to you if necessary, because it's a waste of everyone's time to go through this whole process, the applicant, the committee, the board meeting, and then uploading, send to your department, only to have it denied because it was inadequate documentation. So, but when we've asked in the past to get a read from your folks, from the funding rep, they said, you just have to submit it and then we'll give you an answer. That's a waste of everyone's time.
Sure.
In this, especially with these new requirements, which again I support, I would ask that you please instruct your funding reps that if they don't know, to bump it up to the next level, so that we can get a read on it, saying this will not be accepted. It will be denied unless you come back with the proper documentation, which means you have to have an actual,
right. Right. Yeah. And with regards to the state documents, it's either an active status or a current status. If it reflects something else, then there's questions going to be. They shouldn't. We probably won't proceed with it. So So to your point, we'll address that internally to make sure that we're looking at that. We shouldn't just be accepting the document just because it's been submitted. There has to be a necessary status indicated.
Well, by us, we're trying to do it ahead of time, get the correct information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Sorry about that microphone. Mr. Wilkinson, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, 3 quick items. I'll try and be very quick with them, but they are, I think, things we need to be concerned about. One is on the consent items. We have in Panorama City never used the term consent agenda. We have always put our approvals in item by item. However, as of Robert's rules and an ability to run our own meetings, which frankly, I think the city clerk's overstepping their boundaries here. If we have things that look like slam dunks and they're close together, we will accept a motion and a second to consider them together. But at that time, the chair will ask if any board member wants to comment on them individually and one of those individually and have it pulled, or if a member of the public wants to make a comment on any of those one items, in which case it's pulled. This is exactly the way the Board of Water and Power Commissioners gets through their consent agenda, which often is billions of dollars. So there's nothing wrong with the consent agenda, but you have to give the ability of both board members and the public to deal with things separately if they want to. But then if we don't have anyone ask for it to be pulled, then we will take one vote, but we will write you individual board action forms for the things based on that singular vote, because we've already respected the ability to deal with them separately. And we've been told this is okay. But I just want to be clear to everybody about what we need to do in our own neighborhood councils to respect the ability to discuss these items individually and not to mindlessly put things together that don't belong together. I mean, I'd never put the administrative packet together with $300 for an outreach event. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Second thing, but one of the last comment on that, I think it's completely appalling that nobody in the city clerk's office, since you know that you are requiring roll call votes, had any conception of how destructive this would be to neighborhood councils meetings if they had 12 funding items and they all required roll call votes and people were leaving and they were about to miss quorum. You just said, do it. This is not helpful. The second thing is on the trainings. I want to speak up for Kathy Schreiner, because I in Panorama City live in a community with a lot of not always highly educated community members, and many of them English is their second language, if that. We provide Spanish interpretations at all of our meetings, board and committee. And for participation in our neighborhood council, the city has no idea how much the training. If somebody's done something wrong in 2 neighborhood councils out of 99, we'll order more training. This is such a huge barrier to entry to people in my community, and particularly this YouTube thing. If there's lots of text involved, I am one of the 1,500 to 1,800 board members who has not even looked at your trainings yet, given the few people who are actually listed as viewing them on YouTube. But from what they sound like they're going to be almost impossible for a lot of our people, not impossible, but a real problem, and cause more Spanish speakers or people challenged in doing these so-called trainings. They haven't been finished high school, let alone college. This is not fair to members of my community when we're trying to get more people involved, which is our charter engagement with neighborhood council. And the last thing, which is events, I really hope, I remember when the events permission started. It was over some neighborhood councils. I think this is before you moved there, Melvin. It was over some neighborhood councils that had bouncers for kids from unauthorized people who had zero insurance. Well, that's a catastrophe waiting to happen. But then you said, well, so we'll put in this event request reform so we make certain this doesn't happen again. But one of the problems is, at least the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment has empowerment in its name, taken from the charter, but actually given it to itself because it's created under the plan for neighborhood councils, which is a city ordinance. They have empowerment, as you know, being there in the name, and there's at least a certain amount of guilt if one is not empowering. The problem with the clerk is it was set up to be basically a fiscal agent, because the fiscal agent was not being handled well by the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. But in the process, it has turned into be yet another regulatory agency. And this event program, if we actually look at it, has essentially destroyed an entire rich set of neighborhood council sponsored events. Panorama City used to have an annual health and safety fair with lots and lots of vendors, and it was huge. We don't have that anymore because of the event where there's now a whole industry in the neighborhood council system on how to avoid the event approval process by getting other people to do events because it's killed many events. As you can see, there are people that still are being willing to do it and still struggling with the system. But what is the intended consequence? We've destroyed the rich set of events that was for almost 10 years was done by neighborhood councils without any of these troubles. All because a few neighborhood councils had bouncers without insurance. And nobody sits back and says, because the people in your department are well-meaning city employees trying not to make a mistake, trying to make certain every T is crossed and I is dotted. But this is a regulatory and control mentality. And there's no mentality about empowerment or how to make things better. There's only what might be something going wrong that we haven't locked down yet. And I think this is a huge problem that we need to, as a family, I mean, with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and the city clerk and neighborhood councils ourselves, we're all in this together, but I think we need to struggle with it. So I have just those three things. It's not for you to actually have to answer about anything. I just want to share, I think, three family problems at our little dinner table. So that's it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tony. I'm always appreciative of your insight and comments. So I've definitely taken notes here, and we've been discussing some of these issues that you've touched on, and we'll be adding your comments to this, and I appreciate it.
All right, Kevin, and then Laura, and then we definitely have to move on. We still have a bunch on the agenda. We really appreciate Melvin's time for offering all this to us today and answering not only general questions, but individual questions that affects each neighborhood council. Thank you for that.
Hey, before
Kevin?
I start, does this meeting have a shot clock? I'm just curious. If it doesn't, it should. Two things to consider. One, I actually used to work for Rec and Parks for 3 decades. And one of the ways I was able to bypass the foundation is to have payments directed directly at the park. Every year-round facility has what's called an MRP account. It's a Municipal Recreation Program account. It's the program account that they use to buy equipment and supplies and other things. So if you want to bypass the foundation, talk to the facility in question and see if you can just give them a check directly. It'll probably help them out a lot better. Second thing is I was a purchasing agent for Rec and Parks for a long time. So Melvin, if we could somehow set up a way to a liaison between the neighborhood councils into FMS, because sometimes the city gets a much better deal. I know you guys wouldn't want volunteers having direct access, but it'd be nice if we had some way to check with FMS when we're buying stuff to see if we can get a better deal through the city. And that's it. I yield my time.
Thank you, Kevin. Good to hear from you. That is another option. Although I mean, some NCs do have that ability to not directly issue a payment, like a check payment, if you will, to another city agency. However, there is that ability of to transfer funds. Like say some of your councils are more knowledgeable about that, or working with elected officials to transfer funds from one city account to another, and then I think that's what that is something that I think Kevin is touching on right now.
Well, what I'd like to see, Melvin, is if nothing else, to have access to the catalog in FMS to say, hey, if I want to buy chairs or tables or supplies, maybe the city can get me a better deal, and then I could contact somebody and say, hey, can you order this on our behalf? And then we will figure out, there'll be some way for us to reimburse the city for the cost.
This is, you're referring for the NC's own equipment, or is that what you're referring to, for the NC to buy it for their use?
Yeah, so like let's just say we need to replace the tables and chairs in our office. It'd be nice to flip through the FMS catalog to at least say, hey, city's got a great vendor deal and we'd love to tap into it.
That could be something that could be looked into. Keep in mind also which is something that there is the GSD maintains salvage and it includes furniture, equipment, chairs that our departments are no longer using, and so that may be also something that could be looked into as for NCs to access that and get those items. I think actually probably for free.
Sure, I'm always looking for a bargain.
So that can be that's something I know city departments have access to that, of course, but it could be something that should be made available to NCs, and I believe it may already be, but I'm not 100% sure.
Hey, Melvin, I haven't checked in a while, but do you know if LA Shares still exist or not? Is that because that's different from salvage?
Yes, right. Yeah, I don't know if LA Shares, for those of you who might be familiar, I don't know if it's around, but that LA Shares used to be made available to neighborhood councils. NCs would apply and be given a schedule appointments to go in to the facility and pick whatever they needed. And so, but yeah, that's a good question. That's something that we can check with GSD.
Thanks, Melvin. Always good to talk to you. Bye.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. And then the last one, Laura Myers.
Yep. And I'll be quick. Two things. One, on the YouTube training videos, they are, I just checked, they're translatable for the captions into many, many, many different languages, but there's no instructions. So if a person only speaks Spanish, I don't know how they'd figure out that they could get their captions in Spanish. So maybe, I mean, I don't even know how to solve that part of the problem, but the captions can be in Sudanese, for example, not just Spanish. And for everybody, other problem with recreation and parks, whether it's through the foundation or what the prior speaker just mentioned, if you buy equipment or furnishings for a particular facility, the Recreation and Parks Department reserves the right to transfer that table or whatever it is to another facility. And we have had to resolve that problem locally with our South Seas House by never giving them ownership of anything we provide. And I'm saying we really broadly, we, the neighborhood council, we, the local neighborhood association, we, West Adams Heritage, it doesn't matter who, whatever we give them now, we own, because they have they transferred the conference table somewhere else, for example. So don't do it. It's a waste of your money. That's all I can say. Thanks.
All right. Anything else, Melvin?
No, I mean, you've given me plenty of notes here to take that I will take with me and discuss here within our program with staff and management. And I'm happy to be here. I haven't been in your meetings, Terrence, here with Lenk in quite a while, so I'll be happy to come back when and continue the discussion. This is very helpful.
Well, the door is open. All you got to do is send me an email. We're more than happy to host you. And Michael also, I already sent you guys an email thanking you, but thank you again. And I'm sure all the neighborhood council members here really appreciate what you do and all the information you've supplied today. Thank you so much,
Melvin. I haven't seen the chat. If anyone wants to, follow up with me via email, any other discussions or follow-up matters, it's melvin.canas@lacity.org. You may already have that email, but it's melvin.canas@lacity.org if you want to take the discussion further outside of after today.
Hey,
all right,
Terrence. Sorry, one quick. Melvin, could you? So there's at least one new funding rep. Could you just maybe in a couple sentences, just give us an update? Did you do new hires, reassign people? But one of the names was I'd never recognized before. Could you just let us know? Because I think it affects lots of us.
Sure. Yeah. So we do have on the funding side, on the funding section, which is the section that reviews your payment requests, credit card transactions posted. We have 3 staff there with a supervisor, and the new one that you may be referring to might be Cesar Torres. He just joined us earlier this year. Or early in the year, and then we have Ana and Mariel, and the supervisor there is Janet. on the accounting side of things, we have been able to hire an accounting clerk that we hadn't had for quite a number of years. So our accounting section, and also we were able to get a senior accountant join our program, who is now working with two accounting clerks. So we have 3 staff there. And so one of the roles that they will be getting into more now that we have more staff in accounting is getting into audit reviews of MERs. So that's on the accounting side. We have Shauna Dungo. She's been with our program for a while. Her focus is more on that. She's our contracts coordinator, PRA, inventory, salvage requests. She's sometimes almost like a floater. She comes in where we need her everywhere to assist in a funding section and also with accounting. But she's also on other staff, and then that's our program directly within the NC funding. But we are now part of a new division within City Clerk, which is NC elections and funding. And Michael oversees the election sending directly with a handful of a few staff in there. And then Sofia Anguiano is our division chief.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Melvin. And yeah, we had Caesar for like 10 minutes. He was there and then gone.
Yeah. So this July, I guess less than 2 months ago, we did a reshuffling of assignments. We did have 4 funding reps up until recently. Now we're down to 3, and so we had to make some reassignments. So now Caesar, Mariel, and Anna, they handle the 99 accounts. About 33 or so across each one of them. Yeah. So there's been some reshuffling. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Melvin. We appreciate it. All right, let's get moving on. Brandy, I can only give you a few minutes. You want to go through what we have? She's still here? There you are. Floor is yours, Brandy. Unmute. There you go.
Thank you. It's not giving me the option. Hi. So I know everybody's been here a long time, and I will do my best. This is now going to be summary information, since it is much too detailed to go into questions, etc. So I'll give summary, and if people feel like this needs to be addressed at a future meeting, please let me know. The first item, and actually I want to, if up to Terry, if I can drop to the easiest one first. The first one, which would be the easiest to discuss, is actually, let me go through the recap of the Dunn meeting. On July 23rd, Dunn conducted kind of a meet and greet, not orientation, but an overview of its status for the East and Central Neighborhood Councils, and it was held in Eagle Rock at Councilmember Gerardo's City Hall. We had presentations by the City Clerk Elections Division, the City Clerk Funding Division, and Dunn. Fortunately, most of the city clerk and both for the funding and elections have been handled in questions today. I did want to let people know that the elections representatives who attended indicated that they are very eager to table with any NC events to get the word out on how to register both one's candidacy and voting ballot and registration ballot, and that they are open to having events specifically for that purpose. So if that is something of interest to you, please make sure that you reach out to the elections division. In terms of funding, again, Melvin handled almost everything, but something that did come out that was of interest on both the elections and the funding component is in locating space. So both the election division and NC funding division indicated a openness to assisting in locating of space requirements. Many of our NCs do not have adequate space or space at all, and for the elections may not have anything at all. It was discussed that NCs can possibly receive donated space, although it would not technically be donated to the neighborhood council. It would require that the city clerk engage in that process for the donation of space. In terms of election space, what was brought up was, for example, if there is a city location that serves your NC, but yet is not in your borders, that can possibly be a space. So what the message was is please utilize your city clerk for one, case by case basis of being able to get some assistance that the normal guidelines would not provide. As far as Dunn being present, almost everybody was there except for John Darnell, Marilu Guevara, Gibson, but Carmen Chang was there, Vanessa Serrano was there, Lorenzo, Thomas Song, and they were going over things that they want to bring out for neighborhood council members, how they do really want to work with the neighborhood councils. They asked for input on additional, not necessarily trainings, but additional workshops. So many of you may be attending the brown bag trainings, and so they are open to providing other trainings. Some things that came up are to return to the Robert's Rules of Orders, possible training on ZMIS, digital communications policy, et cetera. So if there are any things that you would like to see the department doing, please feel free to reach out to either Atsi Camarena or Marilu Guevara. I now want to jump to C, which is discussion and possible vote to submit a letter to planning. I don't have the letter now. I did not put a draft letter together if it was found to be unnecessary. But for those of you who are participating on Plum, you may be aware that you're hearing cases such as Executive Directive 1, so 100% affordable housing projects that technically are not allowed in high fire severity zones. The city's mapping is not matching the CAL FIRE mapping. There are many areas in which the high fire or very high fire severity zone has moved and broadened quite a bit. So technically these projects are falling within high fire severity zones, which either would prohibit the building completely or would put some severe restrictions on the waivers and incentives. Despite multiple requests by individual Plum people like myself, the city has not done this mapping on ZMIS. So we've had planning projects be approved that are now happening in high fire severity zones that either should not have happened or received all the waivers or incentives that they would not be granted in such a zone. So the question to the group would be, and Terrence, I don't know if you are prepared to do a vote today, if you'd like to hold it off to next meeting, is whether or not this board would like to submit a letter to the appropriate departments, and then for the next month I will have a draft for consideration by this group.
Okay, since you won't have the draft till next month, while we have the draft together, and we'll put it back on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
And I'll put it as a priority as to A. And then just send me the letter so I could link it.
Absolutely. So the next issue is regarding the kind of contentious interaction between DCR and neighborhood councils. I don't know how many neighborhood councils that are attending today have a significant dispensary permitting. I know that in Hollywood, it's quite congested. I know in parts of the Valley, it's quite congested. And the process for neighborhood council to participate in these discussions is not easy. And I've had another situation come up that proves this. So technically what's supposed to happen is that the DCR is supposed to provide notification to the neighborhood council of a permit being requested. Technically, the applicant is supposed to contact the neighborhood council to give the neighborhood council the opportunity to participate. If one wishes to participate at the meeting, and by the way, all comments must be done in person, they cannot be done virtually. While the city does permit the neighborhood council to submit its recommendation by letter to the Cannabis Commission, it does not allow that letter to be sufficient to be able to get neighborhood council speaking time. And the process that they have on their website is outdated. So we do have a link if you'd like to go back to it on the agenda indicating the current policy guidelines. And those guidelines indicate that a neighborhood council would have to have submitted a CIS on the permit. However, DCR indicates that there is no council file on a permit. So you cannot necessarily submit a CIS, or at least not in an easy way, because DCR is not changing their language to indicate that they just need to submit a document to the appropriate commission on the form. They insist on council file, but there is no council file. Additionally, the information on the page that they've got, which indicates the neighborhood council system, does not send you to the portal. It sends you to a very old, outdated worksheet, old CIS form that indicates, votes, signers, all that stuff. So it makes it very confusing for any neighborhood council members to participate. And in terms of presenting their issues to a commission. Additionally, it's not made clear to neighborhood councils that in order to participate, there are deadlines by which you can submit an unlimited response, a 10-page response, a 4-page response, and then possibly if you're meeting in person, you didn't do it in a timely manner, having to hand print or print multiple copies to hand distribute. So ultimately, since I do not want to go through all of the minutia of how to do it, if anybody is interested in learning how to participate with the DCR in terms of getting their board recommendations to them and to speak, please feel free to reach out to me to my email address at lanccac@gmail.com. Somebody would type that into the chat while I'm talking, that would be great. But the other issue becomes, and again, I did not do the letter because I did not want to anticipate what the position would be. So we can postpone it till next time, that if this group would like to submit something to DCR and the planning department, advising them that they need to update their guidelines, they need to update their EARLs to make this so that it actually works for neighborhood councils to be able to participate. Because under the current process, there are multiple neighborhood councils that have indicated they've lost their opportunity to participate in public because of this portal issue. If there is time and Terrence is open to it, I can answer briefly some questions, but other than that, I don't want to take up this group's time any further.
Okay. If anybody's got a question, anybody? All right, not seeing any hands. Yes, Brandy.
Just one last thing that I addressed with Terrence. For anybody who has a neighborhood council where a lot of their participants or a lot of their stakeholders do utilize Griffith Park, please know that the South Griffith Park area, which is the area where the pool is, the fountain, Friendship Auditorium, et cetera, is undergoing a significant renovation. And currently the steering committee is taking suggestions and questions and concerns on how that should be handled, what they'd like to see in that space. So again, you can email me at the email address if you have specific thoughts on that area. We did make it clear to the consulting group that this park is utilized by all of LA City, not just the immediate NCs, because of its access and nominal, if free, costs. Thank you.
Cindy, go ahead real quick.
Quick, I know. In my experience with the DCR stuff, it's a whole big can of worms. I don't think that the community gets its voice. I think there's a lot of illegal operations going on, which are a detriment to the community, as well as those that are the legal operations. And maybe it would be good to have a little bit longer conversation about it sometime, or maybe not. But it's all going to come down to there's no money. Nobody has money for enforcement. Nobody has money to, or the will to deal with it. So anyway, just sharing my thoughts. Sorry, I think it's just a spin. I'm so sorry.
Cindy, on that point, I do want to let you know that DCR is very amenable to working with illegal dispensaries. This issue is more with them trying to facilitate a dispensary that is going through the legal process, but completely bypassing the community component, which brings up another issue. We were actually able to postpone a hearing because the DCR did not send out the legally required notices to everybody within 700 feet of the location. We did a CPRA on the mailing list and confirmed that they didn't. So they've indicated repeatedly in meetings, they crack down on the illegal ones because it's a loss of revenue. As well as the illegal component. It's more preventing neighborhood councils in the community from participating in the process on the ones that may be problematic, maybe near sensitive use, et cetera. And I'm open to a larger conversation, but this is more about our ability to communicate to the public and the commission in a way that is effective, which they seem to be blocking. It used to be that we were required to sign off on them. Now it's just a courtesy.
Thank you for that, Brandy. Okay, We'll move on, and you'll bring that. Remember to send me the letter because I already put it on the agenda for September. All right,
Okay.
no council files. Glenn, is there anything in particular?
There is council file.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm gonna put Commissioner Schaefer on the spot because he's the one who first highlighted it. So it's council file 26-0906-S4. I'll put it into chat. It's regarding mandating a certain percentage. It's not 100% mandate, but anyway, certain goals for neighborhood council board members to become CERT trained. Commissioner Schaefer, are you available?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll get it in chat like you speak.
I'll just tell you, I was gonna bring it up, then I gotta get out of here. This is from council member Corrado, and she basically wants neighborhood councils to become emergency response people in communities far beyond what CERT was designed for, apparently. And her motion to was that the Department of Neighborhood Development with LAFD is to provide a report with recommendations to require the majority of all neighborhood council board members to obtain and maintain certification with LAFD CERT program, including implementation of options, et cetera, et cetera. The person handling this for the department is John Darnell. This is in response to the fire in Boyle Heights in her district. And she thinks that neighborhood councils, if CERT trained, could get out there with the public to view things and to help people recover and all these other good things. It went to the committee, the arts, parks, et cetera, where she is the chair. So I'm expecting that to be heard one of these days, and then head for the full council after the recommendation is in. That's the motion.
And she had several motions. I inadvertently put the wrong one in, so I'm now bringing the correct one.
Well, I don't know that I can put the whole thing.
No,
Maybe
I did. I just put it in. I just put it in with the link.
You put it in with the link. Okay, good. Because I was going to say, I don't think I put the whole whereas and everything.
The gates are closed.
So that's the story. And those of you who are not, number one, I fully support CERT. Have gone through the CERT training. I think everybody who has the opportunity should go through the CERT training. If we had 10% of the city who goes through CERT training, we would be much better prepared for the next emergency when it hits. I'm not saying if, I'm saying when it hits. And I'm talking about it could be Lucy Jones earthquake, it could be a flood, it could be something based upon what's happening this with El Nino, I don't know. But it's a 7-week commitment, 3 hours, one night per week. And I don't know if you're going to get any board members who are really going to want to do that. It will drive away people who were thinking about coming if it becomes mandatory. And I don't know what they mean by most neighborhood council board members. Maybe they're excluding people who, for whatever reason, aren't able to do things physically. I don't know. Oh, and by the way, it is not although they say, could we do it via Zoom? The fire department has tried that during COVID. It was not successful. They have rejected that, and it would have to be in person. And it would take, by my guess, if it went through every neighborhood council, and the fire department only did neighborhood councils and excluded other members of the public, it would probably take a couple of years to do it. So there you go. That's it.
All right. Glenn, anything else?
So I'm going to put the link to the actual motion in next. But yeah, the other thing was that those of us, and I'm big supporter of CERT, have taken, et cetera. But one of the challenges that we found is the fire department doesn't share the information of who the CERT graduates are, so we can't even organize within our own neighborhoods. So that, I think that needs to be part of the discussion. And frankly, maybe something positive could come out of that if we could highlight that and maybe have that conversation as part of the discussion on this motion. That's my 2 cents. Anyway, definitely something you want to look at and possibly have your neighbor council weigh in and make some positive suggestions, possibly.
Yeah, I don't think John's going to be ready to go back to them for a while because I pointed out a few things to him, including conversing with the city attorney, because there's a great element of city liability with that kind of plan. So that's just a comment.
Brandy? I don't hear you, Brandy. There you go.
Thank you. For some reason, the icon's not appearing. We also discussed in NCPA the fact that other city council members are not required to do this. It is kind of strange that they would put a requirement on volunteer members to operate. And as the commissioner discussed with the potential liability, that would not be mandated by the actual departments or like our council members who would also be required to be out there and helping, et cetera. So sorry, we're having choppers today. Also, what's interesting to note just politically is that this came up in response to the Boyle Heights component by a specific council member, but did not come up and has not come up in any of our other particular disasters, fires, etc. So while everyone should take CERT, I've taken it, I highly recommend it. And by the way, what was also discussed is that the level 1 CERT training is not call out training. It is specifically training to keep yourself safe. It is not training on how to take care of other people. It has to be renewed. This is not something that they felt necessary for them to do as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Glenn, anything else? And also any reports, because the GM didn't send me any reports for August. We're done.
Yeah, the next bonk meeting is canceled due to National Night Out. So the next regular meeting. Oh, you've still got bonk coming up. Oh, okay. That's all I have, right?
I'll let Glenn.
All right.
He's going to.
Burton, you have a question? You're muted.
Actually, I had 3 questions, but I was saving till the end. I don't know if this is the end or not.
We're still working through the agenda.
Okay, I'll wait.
Then. Lionel?
Yes, Mr. Cairns Gomes. I have a public announcement. Is this appropriate time or should I wait, Mr. Gomes?
Nope. We're still going through the agenda. Thank you. All right, moving on. Commissioners. Commissioner Schaefer and Commissioner Ephardt.
You got what I was going to talk about, so I don't know if Doug has anything to talk about other than some things that he's working on.
One thing I would like to let everybody know in case you haven't, and this is sort of commission adjacent, but Elise Rudin of the City Attorney's Office is retiring, and her last day will be August the 7th, and a lot of us will miss her. And that's about it. We're dark on August 4th for National Night Out, and who knows what comes next. We all wait with bated breath to see what the city council members will throw at us next.
Well, they've been on vacation, so it's hard to say what they'll do.
Yeah, well.
All right.
I see in the chat, Brandy says new bond commissioner appointment.
Oh, I knew one was coming up. Have we got one?
Yeah, but I haven't. Nobody tells us anything, by the way. So if someone has a name, we'd love to hear it.
So, yeah, so let me find it for you. The mayor put in a letter on July 30th, 2026 that confirmation Ms. Flor Chavez, who I believe is the president of the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council, would be appointed to the neighborhood commissioner, I think, to take Maggie's seat.
Yes. Well, somebody should.
Thank
I didn't say that out loud, did I?
Hey, who's
great.
Okay, I knew one was coming up, but I didn't see a letter.
Yeah. Now we
All
know.
right, Burton, you have a question for the commissioners?
Well, I'm thinking the questions that I had were to be directed to them. Just that I had three. I saw a recent notice saying that in virtual meetings that everybody must have their live face appear on the meeting. I don't know how. I don't know how many people are following that, or if it's how strict that is. Also, with a cutoff date for funding training, if a particular board member doesn't have that by that cutoff date, are they just restricted from voting on funding matters or on all matters? And the third question was if a stakeholder is using foul language, say during general public comment or any other time somebody's using foul language, can the board chair interrupt them and ask them to please use civil language? Is that just totally inappropriate to interrupt general public comment with a request to that they be good?
You want me to take on any of those, Doug?
Yeah, I'm happy. First of all, let me take the last one. If someone's using foul language, and I'm president of a neighborhood council, and once in a great while somebody will generally slip. It's not Go Puppet doesn't visit the harbor area, thank God. Now watch, he'll show up. Generally, I will say, hey, can you moderate the language a little bit? Just give them a friendly reminder. But essentially, city attorney has advised us all. I was just going to say, there's not a hell of a lot we can do about it. But, it's just one of those things. You grin and bear it. But they're allowed to swear as long as it's within the jurisdiction of the neighborhood council. If they're swearing outside of the jurisdiction of matters for the neighborhood council, I suppose they'd be out of order. But that's just how that one is. In terms of voting, if you haven't had the funding training, I'm not aware that there are any overall rules at this point regarding that. But I do know certain neighborhood councils have their own bylaws or standing rules that can affect that. I know of one neighborhood council down in our area. Boy, if you don't get your it doesn't matter what the training is, they'll not only not let you vote, they won't even let you sit with the board. I mean, those guys are tough, but that's their rule. So, maybe Lynn knows more than I do about that, and I would also note, I don't know if anybody caught it, when Melvin answered a question, he made reference to, at this point, the deadline is. I have a sneaking suspicion, depending on how many people actually end up completing that training and how soon, that deadline may slip. So I would keep an eye out for that. And then I can't remember what the first one was.
It was on virtual meetings.
Yes.
Having to appear with your live picture or a representation. I'm not sure what.
It's the live picture, and that is to ensure that the person who's supposed to be there is actually the person, and we're not all relying on recognizing their voice necessarily. But there's also, and this is state law, this is the stuff that went through the legislature, ensuring that there aren't other people present who necessarily might influence what's happening with that particular member. This is good government stuff. So, as far as I know, that's the reason for that rule.
Does that involve stakeholders as well as board members?
No,
or just board?
no. Stakeholders can be call-in user 25 or whatever whatever they want to be. Yeah, it's only board members.
Okay, thank you.
So.
I'll just point out that is part of the updated Brown Act. Even with neighborhood councils, when they say that you're allowed to do it as long as you comply with, and they name the section and it's 0.8. Right. Part of that has to do with you have to be present, audio and video. One thing is the clerk's office has at least from what I've seen, has stated that one of their rules is if you do not have all funding, training completed, you can't vote on anything. But I don't know that that's a fast and hard. I think they're really trying to say you can't vote on any funding matters if you don't have all of the training. The other one, yes, the California Supreme Court has said that people using foul language, as long as they are addressing either something that's within your jurisdiction, say during general public comment, or they're specifically addressing an agenda item and they stay on the agenda item, they are allowed to use profanity. But the question becomes whether they can address a specific board member, or as we say, you have to address the board or the whatever commissioner as a whole. So they are allowed to do that, and there's nothing to get them out of order. So sorry about that. Unless, well, that's another subject called disruptive.
You know what? And I'm going to throw in one quick thing, and that's that. And again, chairing these meetings, I have had situations where I've had people who are not swearing, who are relatively reasonable people, will get up in public comment and start addressing an individual board members. And I always say to them, wait a minute, you're not talking to that person alone. You address this entire board. I think that's actually a really important thing, because I have seen at other neighborhood councils where in public comment, someone will get up and start talking to an individual board member who then will start replying to them. And yeah, it's just very good practice for neighborhood councils not to, and I get it can be viewed as somewhat picky, but I think it's important. So
that's one of the announcements we make when we open the commission meeting. Comment to the board, not to an individual, and the comment must be within the subject matter jurisdiction. So if somebody's talking to you about something the FAA does, and you're not near any airport or anything, that's probably not within your subject matter jurisdiction. But if you happen to be one of those that have a representative on the Citizen Commission for the Van Nuys Airport, maybe it is within your jurisdiction. You just got to consider it. And I'll wish everybody a very good rest of the weekend. Stay safe, stay out of the heat, stay hydrated. And my blood sugar's about at the bottom, so I got to go get something to eat. Everybody take care.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn?
There is an exception that regarding the attending meeting video on, etc., that we found out about, and that is we have a 90-plus-year-old board member, and she has ADA accommodation issues, and so the ADA supersedes the state legislation. So this is per not just the department. I think city attorney got involved. So just know that to accommodate folks who may have disabilities, that there may be some exception to the video always on, and I don't know what would happen if disability dealt with audio, but anyway, in this particular case, that's
If yes, and you're right, Glenn. If I may jump in real quick, Sharon had a comment in the chat about what do you do if they're not showing everybody on screen. It depends on the neighbor council. If they have chat available or raise hand or whatever, I would basically interrupt and say, is there a reason that board member XYZ is not got their video on? And there may be an ADA situation, so I wouldn't jump to a conclusion. But if they don't, I would say, per section whatever, if you have the language of the Brown Act, it's a reminder that board members are required to have their video on. I mean, and then I suppose if they refuse to do it, you can come to Bonk and complain to us.
No, actually, if they,
I thought you were getting something to eat.
I am, but I heard that going. If they refuse to do it, and it's a violation of the Brown Act, they can actually notify the neighborhood council of the violation of the Brown Act, and recommend that their solution for curing it is that you do what you were doing while they were absent. Now, if they're going to leave, if they're going to do something, and they say, I'm going to go off screen because I'm going to go use the restroom or I'm going to go get a drink of water, as long as that doesn't break your quorum, they're now absent from the meeting for that period. But that's okay. When they come back again, just like they've walked out of the room, now they have to come back and be on the screen again. And yes, you're right. It is, well, there's a whole section about, that we won't get into about ADA, but yes, ADA would override that if because of the ADA, they can't be on screen.
Actually, this involves one of your councils, Commissioner Schaefer. Reseda Neighborhood Council, hardly any of the board members ever turn on their camera, and they don't have gallery view. There's only one showing up at a time, and that's when they're speaking. This has been reported numerous times to the various NEAs who have been associated with this council for 2 years, and they still, whenever they have virtual meetings, which is most of the time, they still have not made that change, and the presidents have come and gone, and the NEAs have come and gone. So I don't know, maybe the next time you have an opportunity on third Mondays, drop in on the Reseda Neighborhood Council virtual meeting and witness it for yourself, because I have seen it. It is a clear violation that most of the board members never turn their camera on, or they have a cartoon character as placed in as if it were their video. So and I'm sure they're not the only neighborhood council, but it's the most egregious example that I've witnessed.
I've already told you what a solution might be.
Where it's been reported. So
no.
It's been reported to the neighborhood council. It's been reported to the NEA. I don't know that it's been reported to Bonk.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you offline, Glenn. I'll tell you offline.
Cheryl?
Hello. I apologize if this has already been addressed because I was a lot late. I was on the Dunn website looking for election information, and all the links on their website are to 2025 information. If you don't know to go to the city clerk to get the current information, you're SOL.
Okay, thank you for that. Will you talk to the department there, commissioners? Thank you.
I'm sure we will.
Okay, bring it up in your next meeting that isn't canceled. All right, thank you so much, commissioners. Glenn, Jay, you have anything for budget advocates? You want to recap because we were dark in July and you had the budget day in June.
A budget day recap was emailed out. Hopefully everyone got it who at least registered for budget day. I don't know if it was sent out to all neighborhood council board members or not. Jay may know the distribution, but it was a partial update including the number of neighborhood councils. I think there were over 400 registrations, which is a very impressive number. I don't know how many actually showed up, but it was standing room only in council chambers. And I can tell you that when the chair of City Council Budget and Finance Committee, Katie Yaroslavsky, spoke, when Mayor Bass spoke, when Controller Mejia spoke, they all three of them expressed being impressed with standing room only on a Saturday morning in council chambers. So the recording, we have received the recording. I believe it's been posted on the website budgetadvocates.org. So you can check out the keynote speakers and the panel discussion via the audio recording. There's a video recording, and there's also an audio recording. So I don't know if they're both posted or not, but overall, in terms of the evaluations, and if you haven't submitted your evaluation yet, if you were there, please do so. That was also linked in the e-blast that was sent out recently. Has been very positive in terms of, there's always some bumps in the road, when you do a big event like that and things don't quite go the way you hope, but I think overall things went very well. Our next steps is that we were starting we work all year round dealing with the city budget that needs it. We are going to be kicking off our departmental teams training session. This is where we meet with the 40 plus different city departments. It's open to all budget advocates, budget reps, and neighborhood council board member stakeholders who have an interest. We're starting our kickoff session 3 weeks from today, August 22nd, 1 p.m. virtually via Zoom. Sign up to participate in that. We also taking signups now for the various city departments, so you can sign up for that. We'll also have a session with the CAO going into deep dive about the city's budgeting process, and then another session about the details of meeting with the city departments, and those meetings will start hopefully in late September after the mayor's budget letter has been released to the departments. And the goal is always to finish up by October, which we don't achieve, but that's the goal, and get the reports written up. So we'll see how we do this year. And so, let your neighborhood councils know that. The other positive outcome of Budget Day was that we filled more of our seats than recent years. We only have 5 vacancies. So if you're in Region 2, Region 5, or Region, I'm going to say 8 from memory. No, sorry, 10. Anyway, we have one or 2 vacancies. So stay tuned if you get a communication. But in order from us about a special election, but in order for that to happen, we need to have a someone who is a budget representative appointed by the respective neighborhood council step up and say, I'd be interested in running to be a budget advocate. Then we'll schedule a special election. So you can look at our website, budgetadvocates.org. You'll see from the listing of all the budget advocates which regions have an opening, and then you can proceed from there.
Right.
I see Burton's hand is up. He's
yes, I was just
what I didn't announce. So go ahead, Burton.
Oh, no, go. Well, what didn't you announce? Maybe that will address what I was going to ask.
So regions 1 and 2 ran out of time for their the feedback portion of the breakout session. So we are going to be doing a makeup session. And I did speak with one of your board members about that. So regions 1 or 2 will get a separate invitation of that. You don't have to go downtown to City Hall because it'll be virtually via Zoom. So watch for that during the next week or so.
Okay. Are you going to make a comment about the neighborhoods meeting in September? We were at one point there was things that were said that it was up. Things were up in the air whether it would happen or not. And we were going to vote on it in our meeting, and it got tabled because a question came up that, well, if we vote to give money for the Congress of Neighborhoods, and it doesn't happen, what happens with the money? Our NEA said, well, it goes into a holding fund. And then our people were questioning, well, if sometimes the city does funny things with holding funds and moves things around.
No,
And so we
yeah, that's true, they do.
decided to table the thing, but that would come up in our this next meeting.
Okay, that's true that they do things with special funds, but this is a special account. The money stays in the account until the Congress needs it. And really, that's the next item on the agenda. Maybe we're done with advocates and we can move to that. But yeah,
Okay.
any contributions from neighbor councils for budget day.
Not budget day. Did we lose him?
Message. Can you hear me?
No, now you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Budget day. So neighbor council budget day or the Congress of Neighborhoods, they have separate funds, and any contributions received from neighbor council stays in that fund and can only be used for that purpose. It may be that year, it may be the next year, but you don't need to worry about it being moved or taken or anything like that. It will eventually be used for Congress. In the case of Congress, they need the money. They need every penny they can get in order to do, Congress this year. Fortunately, we don't have this as high of expenses for budget day, and we've got some money in our account. So I would encourage you and any other neighbor council to definitely consider contributing to both neighbor council budget day going forward and also for Congress of Neighborhoods. Both entities give you credit for making the contribution, recognize you in the program and at the event, and et cetera. And it certainly helps out something that the city's right now providing no funding for.
Okay. I appreciate you clarifying that, because that'll make it easier at our meeting to assuage the concerns that people had based on what our NEA told us. Okay, thank you.
By the way,
Thank you, Bert.
Who was that who told you? I guess we could get that privately if you rather.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I saw you put in the chat about the Congress and Neighborhoods meeting next week. Glenn, you
Yes.
got anything else on it?
I
Nope,
think
it's,
Tony did that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Tony did it. I'm sorry.
No, the fact that usually it follows us, but it's not following us today. It's going to be next Saturday at 1:30 p.m. So if you're interested, the link is in Save the Chat. That's the little three dots at the top, and click on them and save the chat to your local computer, and you'll have the link. If you lose the link, you can go to Congress of Neighborhoods .neighbor, whatever the website is, and it's on the events page, and you can click on that link right on the calendar in order to join the meeting.
That was very perceptive of the Congress Plan Committee to know that this meeting was going way over time today.
Yeah. Well, we're almost done. Okay. Updates from any regional alliances? Anybody? Well, I know the commissioner left, so we won't hear from emergency preparedness.
I do want
Any other ones? Vank?
Actually, I have something for you. We are in the process of resurrecting Hank.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, I actually have interest from 3 of the neighborhood councils who have said, let's get it going again, but more to come.
All right. Well, good to hear. How about Vank? Anything for Vank? Glenn? Tony?
I'm trying to think what's on August meeting agenda, and I can't.
It's second Thursday, so make certain you put it on your calendar. I'd like to also take this opportunity to remind you that before this meeting at 8:30, so you can get up in your pajamas with your first cup of coffee, we do have the Neighborhood Council DWP meeting, and we had a fantastic meeting today where we had both the guy who heads the entire LA 100 power planning thing and the fellow who is the head of the distribution system planning come, because I had challenged the department. How come the distribution planning has a different scheduled target date from LA 100 how are they matching? And we had a very, very good discussion. So you really, if you want to know what's actually going on at LADWP, ignore all the negative comments on Nextdoor and show up at 8:30 every first Saturday. It's really worth everybody's while. Thank you.
Is that Glenn?
Just somewhat on that, and Army. Are we going to be meeting on Saturday, September 5th, Labor Day weekend, as usual?
Oh, I have it down as it being a meeting.
Okay, and DWP is meeting, Tony?
I'm always for meeting. It's only my friend Jack who is taken to taking vacations or going dark last month. Anyway, sure.
Well, I mean, we did make an exception for the 250th.
Well, but yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
It only comes every 250 years.
Okay.
That's right.
I did want to make something that's somewhat related to Vank and somewhat related to others. And that was, there is a city advisory committee that heard a presentation from LA 28 Olympics group. And during the it was about some venue locations, etc., in the valley. But as part of the presentation, they indicated that the federal government is imposing prohibitions on any traffic within a certain distance of the venues. So for those of you familiar with the valley and the Sepulveda Basin, because there are several Olympic events being held in the basin, they are closing for the duration of the Olympics Victory Boulevard between Balboa and the 405 I think Woodley. They're closing Balboa Boulevard between Victory and Burbank. They're closing Woodley Avenue between Victory and Burbank, and they're closing Burbank Boulevard between Balboa and Woodley. They're rerouting the Orange Line, the G Line bus, so they won't be able to go on the busway between Balboa and Woodley. So it's being rerouted in a sort of a circuitous southerly route. They're also closing on and off ramps in the 405 freeway in that vicinity. So I'm only mentioning this to you because if you have Olympic venues in your area, you may want to inquire of the traffic impacts that are within a certain radius, because this was sort of very incidental. It wasn't part of the formal presentation about the venues. It came up as somewhat related to public access, et cetera. So I just want to share that with everyone is, maybe inquire about how this could possibly impact the traffic in your area if you've got some venue areas. And then one final thing, we asked about the impact to the Van Nuys Airport. Will it affect flight patterns? And we were told, yes, it will, but they don't have any details as to what that will mean as far as flights being able to take off or land during the the dates of the Olympics. So stay tuned on that. But I imagine, I can't imagine that something like that would happen for LAX. But anyway, I just wanted to share that.
All right. Anybody else? Any other? Jay?
Yeah, so RAC, Western Regional Alliance, is going to be holding a mayoral and a city attorney debate in September. It's in the final planning stages, and once we have that information, we'll release that out to everybody at the August meeting or before. But it's coming, and the elections are coming, so stay tuned.
All right. Anything else from RAC, or is it just that?
That's all we got going right now. Still trying to rebuild the Palisades.
Yes, sir. We know that. Okay. Anybody else from any other alliance? Seeing no hands. I know we had some announcements. Lionel?
Fantastic, my friend. Finally, Lionel Mara speaking as an individual. I'd like to share with you, Mr. Gomes and everybody else who's paying attention. By the way, power to the people. The Friends of the Los Angeles River is hosting our 5th annual River Fest, a free open-air environmental arts and community festival celebrating the culture, history, and people that share the shape the LA River. This year's Riverfest will feature lots of local artists, thrilling live performances, and environmental art gallery, and a bustling marketplace. We also have some new interactive eco activities for the whole family and delicious food from some of LA's best food trucks. So grab your favorite Angelinos and come celebrate with us. For more information, visit support.FOLR.org/event/Riverfest-2026-E793286. And number two, the First Amendment Coalition and the First Amendment and Expression Coalition have filed threatened the LA City Council a lawsuit for violation of the First Amendment rights. I would like to give a shout out to my friend Stacy from the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council. In the article, they mentioned her name, and she was courageous enough to call out the City Council for banning certain words, despite those words being awful. But it's not about those words. It's about expressionism and First Amendment and at a government committee or council meeting. And they sent a letter a few days ago, I think last week, and the City Council needs to respond. If they don't respond, if they continue to ban words or any kind of words, they will be taken to court. I'm pretty sure you read about it. Democracy needs to be heard, and power to the people, my friend. Thank you. I yield the balance of my time.
Okay. Anybody else have any other announcements? Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, move to. Just remember, everybody, August 4th, National Night Out. So be out there with your neighborhood councils, and we'll all see you on September 5th. Everybody have a great week. Stay dry, stay hydrated, stay cool. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. The River Festival is on August 9th, Sunday, August 9th. I forgot that detail. It's free for all, by the way. Just register in advance.